This audiobook is your passage through the veil of illusion. Not a teaching, but a remembering. A remembering of the law that supersedes all other laws. A remembering of who you are before the world told you who to be. This is not about manifesting some minor wish. It is about becoming the source of creation itself. When you awaken to the law beyond laws, time will no longer move against you. It will move for you. Reality will no longer push back. It will bow. This is the transmission your soul has waited lifetimes to hear. Listen closely. Everything you thought you knew about reality is about to dissolve, and something far greater will rise in its place. Introduction. Where thought becomes flesh and time bends, there is a place, not outside of you but within, where all laws bend, where time folds like silk, and where the boundaries of possibility dissolve into mist. The ancient ones called it the seat of the Most High. The mystics called it the sacred I Am, and you have touched it in your dreams. In moments of stillness, in flashes of déjà vu, in those haunting instances when the world responded to you before you even moved, there is a law that governs manifestation. But beyond even that law, there is something greater. Not a law you learn, but a law you become. This law is not written in books. It is written in the bones of creation. It is the whisper behind the thunder, the stillness between heartbeats. It is the reason thoughts become things. It is the reason time bends around clarity. It is the reason the world reshapes itself. For those who dare to believe differently, and it does not care for what you've been taught. It bows only to one master, inner knowing. This book is not for the casual seeker. It is not for those who merely want, but for those who are ready to become. To become the one who does not follow the world, but reshapes it. You are not a beggar of blessings. You are not a prisoner of chance. You are the divine will in human form. And you were never meant to obey laws. You were meant to write them. So let the old codes dissolve. Let the timelines you've outgrown collapse. Let all that no longer serves you be returned to the dust. For now you remember, reality does not dictate who you are. You dictate what reality becomes. We begin now, and we do not return to sleep. Chapter 1. The Law That Cannot Be Named. There is a law so ancient, so sacred, so vast in its reach that no tongue can fully speak it, no pen can ever capture it, and no teaching can contain it. It existed before the stars were born, before language wrapped itself around truth and limited it. This law, if it can even be called that, is not one that governs from above, but one that pulses from within. It is the rhythm of the infinite echoing through the finite. It is the breath behind your breath, the light behind your eyes, the silence beneath all thought. Every other law of physics, of karma, of attraction, of resistance bows to this force. For this is not a law bound by dimension or time. It is a law that bends dimension and warps time. You do not learn it. You remember it. You do not follow it. You become it. In the forgotten cities of the world hidden beneath sands and roots and myths there are remnants of those who once lived by this law. They walked without fear. They spoke and nature responded. They visualized and mountains moved. They did not seek miracles, for they understood that to exist at all was already a miracle. These were the keepers of the law beyond laws, not priests, not prophets, but rememberers. Souls who had peeled back the illusion of limitation and stood face to face with the machinery of the universe. They saw that the matrix of this world was built upon belief, and that to shift belief was to shift the structure of matter itself. You have known this law. even if only in flickers. When you thought of someone and they called you. When you stepped into a room and knew something had changed before it did. When you desired something pure and without resistance, and it arrived effortlessly, precisely, impossibly, on time. These were not coincidences. These were cracks in the illusion, showing you what's always been true. That the world outside is a mirror held up to the world within. And when the mirror bends, reality obeys. This law has no name, because names are limits. It cannot be contained in systems or diagrams or techniques. It is not the law of attraction, nor the law of vibration, nor the law of cause and effect. It is all of these and none of these. It is the source from which they emerge, the primal intelligence that animates every other universal function. When you align with this law, you do not merely attract what you desire. You become the magnetic field itself. You become the center of gravity. You no longer pull things toward you, you cause them to unfold from you. This chapter is not for your intellect. It is for the part of you that has no name, the awareness behind your eyes, the still watcher behind every story you've ever told yourself. That part already knows this law. That part is the law. When you stop identifying with the surface self, the ego that panics, strives, fears, hopes, and start identifying with the silent observer, everything changes, not slowly, instantly, because reality reshapes itself at the level of identity. You are not trying to create from the outside in, you are collapsing the boundaries from the inside out. There is only one question you need to ask to activate this law. Who am I being? Not what am I doing, not what am I thinking, but what the core of my being am I being right now? Because the world doesn't respond to your desires, it responds to your being. You may want wealth, but if you are being lack, the universe will return to you more of who you are, not what you wish for. You may wish for love, but if you are being unworthy, you will magnetize mirrors that reflect your unworthiness. It is not punishment. It is precision. The universe does not operate on hope. It operates on harmony. To step into the law beyond laws is to collapse the space between wish and form. There is no delay when the signal is pure. The only reason time seems to pass between vision and manifestation is because resistance clogs the signal. But when your belief aligns perfectly with your identity, time bends to you. It compresses. It dissolves. Things that should take years happen in days. Moments stretch and collapse at your command. This is not magic. This is alignment. This is not about controlling the world. It is about becoming so tuned to the frequency of your desire that the world reshapes itself to remain coherent with who you've chosen to be. Understand this. The law beyond laws does not ask. It declares, it does not hope, it knows. It does not operate through repetition or ritual alone, but through identity. When you become the version of you who already has, the universe has no choice but to reflect that version back. This is not metaphor, this is law. If the outer world hasn't shifted, it's not because the law isn't working, it's because you're still acting from the self that doesn't believe it's real. The gatekeeper to this law is silence. Not the absence of sound, but the stillness behind all thought. You do not access this power through anxiety. You access it through inner stillness, through surrender, through knowing. Your mind wants to do. Your soul simply is. When you rest in that beingness, everything you thought you had to chase begins to chase you. The world reorganizes itself around the new center point you have chosen to occupy. The field bends, time yields. Thought becomes flesh. The ancient sages had no need for complex philosophies. They understood this simple truth. The outside is always the inside in disguise. And once you master the inside, you need not struggle with the world. The world obeys. Not because you forced it, but because you remembered that it was never separate from you to begin with. You are the law. You are the command. You are the vibration from which matter arises. Everything you have sought outside of you, power, peace, wealth, love, time, has never been out there. It is coded within you, awaiting activation. You are not learning how to create. You are unlearning the belief that you cannot. The law beyond laws awaits no one. It activates the moment you remember, and you are remembering now. Chapter 2. Bending Time with Identity. Time is not what you think it is. It is not a river, not a ticking clock, not a line etched from past to future. Time is elastic, and it listens. It listens not to the hands of a watch, but to the hands of your identity, the inner sculptor that defines who you are. You have been told that time moves forward, that you are a passenger on its current. But in truth, time responds to how you define yourself. Identity is the secret lever behind the ticking illusion. When you change who you believe yourself to be, time does not remain indifferent. It bends. It shifts. It folds. Because time, like matter, like space, like energy, bows to consciousness. The laws you were taught of biology, of psychology, of fate were built around a misunderstanding. They assume that the self is fixed, that who you are is a set point, but identity is not fixed. It is chosen, moment by moment. And every time you choose, time rearranges itself to accommodate that choice. You felt this before. On a quiet day, when you slipped into deep presence, and hours vanished in minutes, or when anxiety tightened its grip, and a minute stretched into what felt like a lifetime. That was not imagination. That was time obeying your state of being. And your state of being is the echo of your identity. In the hills of Northern Ireland, long before time zones and clocks and calendars, there lived a woman named Brina. She was known as the Untouched. Not because she lived in isolation, but because she lived beyond the reach of the ordinary. They said her face never aged, though the decades rolled by. Her garden bloomed with spring's bounty even in the frost of autumn. Children healed in her presence, elders remembered youth in her smile. And when asked her secret, she would only say, "I do not belong to time. I belong to truth." Brina had discovered what mystics and quantum pioneers whisper about even today, that time is not an external law, but an internal agreement. And the only real timekeeper is identity. Who you decide yourself to be becomes the metronome of your experience. The wounded identify with time as punishment. They count the days, the years, the regrets. But the awakened identify with timelessness. They see their identity not as a product of the past, but as the architect of the future. And as soon as you claim a new identity as healer, as creator, as abundant one, as chosen, time collapses the gap between here and there. Because in the field of universal law, identity precedes evidence. Think of the actors of the ancient temple plays. They put on the robes of kings, the masks of gods, and for those moments, they became what they wore. The body did not question it. The voice followed. The audience felt it, and the laws of that play, in that moment, were real. So too, in your life, the roles you wear become the rules you live under. If you clothe yourself in lack, the timeline of your life slows to match scarcity. If you clothe yourself in the royal robes of destiny, time races to keep up. What you see yourself as is what the fabric of time begins weaving into your story. There was a boy named Ezra, born into nothing, who believed he was royalty in exile. He wore second-hand shoes, ate stale bread, slept under broken roofs, but in his heart he walked like a king returning to his throne. Each morning he would rise, wash his face in the stream, and whisper, "I am the one the world has waited for." The townspeople laughed, his classmates mocked, but the laws of time did not laugh. They listened. Within 10 years, The same people who ridiculed him sat in his grand hall. The bakery he once begged from became a sponsor for his foundation. His rags became robes. Not because he fought time, but because he replaced the timeline entirely with identity. You must understand this. Reality does not wait for you to become. It waits for you to believe you are. The moment you do, time rushes in to fill the shape you've drawn with your imagination. And just as the seed already contains the tree, your future self already exists, not in the distance, but in a higher octave of now. You do not become your ideal self through effort. You collapse into it through alignment. And alignment begins by declaring who you are, not who you've been. You are not the sum of your habits. You are not the result of your memories. You are not a statistic, not a label, not a number in someone else's projection. You are a shapeshifter, a time traveler, a reality bender. You are the breath of eternity, inhaling into human form, and when you speak, "I am," the laws of time listen. So speak with reverence. Speak with fire. Speak with vision. Do you want to bend time? Begin by bending identity. Declare the truth of who you are, not someday, not after this or that, but now. Feel the texture of that truth in your bones. Walk as that version of you. Speak from that version. Make decisions as that version. Time will have no choice but to match. Circumstances that seemed distant will draw near. Years of effort will collapse into days of synchronicity. Because time is not your master, it is your servant. And your identity is the command. So here is your practice. For the next 7 mornings, rise in silence. Place your hand on your chest and whisper, "I am already what I seek." Then close your eyes and see the world bending around your new self. See the calendar folding. See the detours disappearing. Feel yourself walking into rooms already prepared for your arrival. Do not ask how. Do not ask when. Those questions belong to timelines you no longer serve. Simply know. The rest will accelerate to meet your knowing. You are not behind. You are not late. You are simply waiting for your identity to catch up to what your soul already knows. Chapter 3. The Image That Creates Worlds. There is a secret throne within your mind, more powerful than any palace of stone, more influential than any government, more permanent than any empire. Upon that throne sits the image you hold of yourself, and from that image the universe takes instruction. Every tree, every atom, every circumstance, every synchronicity is quietly shaped by the ruling picture that you carry within. This is the law beneath all laws. That what you hold in imagination, consistently and emotionally, must take shape and form. It is not philosophy, it is not wishful thinking, it is spiritual engineering. And the mind, your mind, is the divine architect. You see, we are always imagining, whether we are aware of it or not. The future you fear, the outcome you dread, the limitation you expect, these are all forms of imagination. The problem is not that people do not visualize, it's that they visualize unconsciously. The default images in their minds are corrupted by past experiences, fear, and outer conditioning. And what the subconscious sees repeatedly, it begins to reproduce. It does not argue, it does not judge, it simply obeys. Because the image, not the desire, not the goal, but the image you carry within is the true command to reality. There once lived a man named Olivier, a baker in the frostbitten town of Brelieu. He never studied the laws of metaphysics. He never read a single spiritual book. But he had something else, an unshakable inner picture. Each morning, before lighting the ovens, he would stand in silence and see his bakery filled with customers from far and wide. He imagined conversations, orders, the rustle of coins, the smell of sweetbread carried into the street. At the time, only a few villagers passed through, But Olivier never entertained the image of lack. He refused to see what was. He chose to see what would be. And in time, the world conformed. By the following winter, tourists arrived. Food critics wrote columns. Even the mayor sent gifts. And when they asked Olivier how he did it, he smiled and simply said, "I lived there in my mind long before I walked there in my shoes." This is the way. This is the unspoken formula behind the rise of dreamers, the quiet genius of saints and sages, the miracle hidden behind every overnight success. You must create the image within so vividly and so consistently that your nervous system, your posture, your tone of voice, your choices all begin to act as if the vision is already real. Not because you're pretending, but because, to the subconscious, it is real. The ancients spoke of this in veiled language. They said, "As above, so below, as within, so without." But what they really meant is, the world you see with your eyes is the delayed reflection of what you've long imagined. And if you want to change the reflection, you don't fight the mirror, you change the image. This principle is not poetic, it is mechanical. In quantum mechanics, we see it mirrored again. The observer influences the field. The electron behaves differently when it is observed, not because of superstition, but because awareness itself alters the outcome. Consciousness shapes probability into certainty. And what is an image but concentrated awareness? It is the blueprint of destiny, held long enough, strongly enough, until reality molds itself to match. A young girl named Elira once wandered the markets of Madrona, watching musicians play in the street. She had no instrument, no training, no resources. But in her soul, she saw herself playing a golden harp, strings glowing under moonlight, an audience held breathless by the music. Her image was not a passing wish, it became her identity. Every night, she would close her eyes and live inside the concert. She felt the strings under her fingers, heard the applause, tasted the silence between notes. That image grew stronger than her surroundings. And then, a harp arrived, donated by an old man who had seen her sitting by the fountain, eyes closed, hands moving as if already playing. He said he'd had a vision of her. But in truth, it was her vision that summoned him. Today, she plays to thousands, but she still returns each evening to the image, for she knows the music began not with strings, but with sight. This is the sacred practice you must now embrace. Not visualization as entertainment, not daydreaming as escape, but conscious image building as divine command. Your image is your signal. Your image is your offering. Your image is your future, waiting to be clothed in time and space. So ask yourself now, what is the dominant image I hold of my life? Is it formed from truth or from trauma? Is it inspired by divine inheritance or inherited limitation? Is it expansive or merely realistic? Because realism, as taught by the world, is just a clever disguise for collective fear. It is not realism that builds bridges, cures disease, ends wars, or puts rockets into the sky. It is vision, and vision begins with image. The world does not bend for the one who reacts. It bends for the one who imagines. Do not wait for evidence to begin imagining. Begin imagining, and evidence will arrive. So here is your practice. Each night before sleep, return to the same image. Do not change it. Do not dilute it. See it again and again until it gains weight in your consciousness. Until it feels heavier than your current reality. Let it saturate your senses. Smell the future. Taste it. Touch it. Feel it in your bones. Your mind will begin treating it as memory. Your body will begin acting from it, and your life will begin building around it. Reality is not stubborn. It is obedient, but it must be shown the image. Paint carefully, paint boldly, paint with devotion. Because the image you carry is the world you create. Chapter 4. The Law Behind All Others. There is a hidden law that governs the visible and the invisible, the seen and the unseen, the cause and the consequence. It operates whether you believe in it or not, whether you study it or remain ignorant to its workings. This law is not subject to opinion, cultural trend, or scientific bias. It existed before your name, and it will echo long after your breath leaves the body. It is the law that all other laws rest upon, and it is this: you do not attract what you want. You attract what you are. This law is the heartbeat behind all creation, the architect behind the form, the unseen mechanism that spins the galaxies and pulls a rose from seed. It is not cruel, though many mislabel it as such when their desires fail to arrive. It is not partial, though it seems to favor some and abandon others. It is perfectly neutral like gravity. And like gravity, it can raise you or break you depending on how you engage with it. To understand this law, you must stop asking, "What do I want?" and begin asking, "What am I being?" For the frequency of your being is the mold through which your entire life is poured. Your thoughts are the chisels. Your emotions are the magnetic field. Your choices, your habits, your tone, your posture, all of them emit a signal. And the universe, faithful and exact, sends you experiences that match it. Long ago, in a dry land where the sky cracked with silence and time moved slowly, there lived a man named Sufiel. He was a scribe, humble and unknown, who carried a single truth in his bones. While others built shrines and begged the gods, Sufiel would rise before the sun and simply be what he desired. He desired peace, and so he walked as peace, spoke as peace, treated even those who spat at him with the stillness of one who knew who he was. Over time, the townspeople noticed something strange. Wherever he went, conflict dissolved, arguments settled. Even wild animals lay calm in his shadow. The people called it magic, but it was law. The law of mirrored being. Sufiel's life teaches us that you cannot trick this law. You can declare 1,000 affirmations, script your dreams in gold ink, and recite mantras from dawn to dusk, but if your state of being contradicts your words, the law listens to your energy, not your lips. It does not care what you say you want. It reflects what you deeply believe yourself to be. We see this in nature too. The rose does not strain to become itself. The eagle does not wish to soar. It soars because it is eagle. Form follows identity. Essence dictates shape. And so it is with you. The money you seek, the love you crave, the health you long for, they are not distant prizes to chase. They are mirrors of your inner state. They come when you are vibrationally compatible with them. But here's the mystery. Most people never become the version of themselves that their dream requires. They wait for the dream to arrive, thinking that then they will become it. But this is like waiting for a fire to warm you before adding wood. It is backwards. The law behind all others demands that you embody the future before it arrives, and in doing so, you draw it to you. This is not self-help. This is sacred remembering. There once lived a woman named Aveline who owned nothing but a broken violin and a vivid imagination. She dreamed of playing in the world's grandest concert halls, but instead of begging life for it, she became it. She practiced as if millions were listening. She dressed with elegance even when she could barely afford thread. She spoke of her destiny as if it were history. And soon it was. Invitations came. Doors opened, but not by chance, by alignment. She became the vibration of the vision, and so the vision could not help but meet her. You must understand this if you wish to wield the force of reality itself. There is no force stronger than alignment. not effort, not force, not even desire. Alignment is the golden path, the bridge between realms, the alchemy of being. When what you think, what you feel, what you say, and how you act are in harmony, the universe rushes to reflect you. This law asks for no payment, no perfection, no permission. It simply asks for coherence. Be coherent in your energy, and life will move mountains on your behalf. Be fragmented, and even your most noble dreams will be delayed. So the question is not, how do I manifest? The real question is, can I become the version of me who already has it? Because the moment you do it must come, not because the universe is rewarding you, but because it literally has no choice. That is the law. The seed doesn't hope to become the tree. It is the tree in seed form, and when the seed aligns with soil, water, and light, it simply unfolds what it already contains. So too with you. You are not chasing anything. You are revealing everything. And your life will always, without exception, mirror the image of your identity. The practice, then, is simple but profound. Each morning, close your eyes and ask, who am I being today? Not what am I doing, not what am I achieving, but what am I being? And if the answer is not aligned with the future you see, shift it. Choose again. Step into the role. Breathe into the frequency. Live from the image, not toward it. The law will respond. It always does. Because this is the law behind all others. The law that sees what you are and reflects it as your world. Chapter 5. The Echo of Emotion. Feeling as the bridge between worlds. There is a sacred bridge that connects the invisible to the visible, the imagined to the real, the formless to the formed, and that bridge is feeling. Not thought alone, not image alone, but emotion, the sacred current that vibrates through your nervous system, sending instructions to the quantum field in a language older than words. You may think you are a logical being, crafting outcomes with your intellect and intention, but in truth, you are a frequency transmitter, and emotion is your dial. The law beyond laws responds not to your wishes, but to the emotional resonance beneath them. What you feel is what you are asking for. What you feel is what you believe. What you feel is what you attract. Not because emotion is magic, but because emotion is the vibrational fingerprint of your being. The universe, like a perfectly tuned mirror, does not reflect your surface words or even your clearest thoughts. It reflects your dominant vibration, and that vibration is shaped moment by moment by what you feel most often. This is why affirmations that feel hollow do not work. Why vision boards filled with stunning images often gather dust while nothing changes. Because the emotion is missing, or worse, it is in contradiction to the desire. You say, I am wealthy, but you feel scarcity. You visualize love, but you feel unworthy. You declare health, but you fear illness. And so the law obeys the deeper signal. It answers the emotion, not the statement. Let me tell you the story of Elias, a merchant, once plagued by constant misfortune. For years he chanted affirmations, burned incense, visualized stacks of gold. He studied the laws of the mind, read sacred books, and prayed in 10 languages. But his fortunes never changed. One evening, as the sun dipped below the hills and painted the sky with crimson fire, he sat in silence, no chanting, no asking, no visualizing. He simply remembered a moment in childhood when he felt free, open, blessed. He held that feeling, and something opened inside him. His breathing deepened, his shoulders dropped. For the first time in decades, he felt prosperity not as a future hope, but as a present vibration. That moment marked the shift. Within weeks, unexpected opportunities came. People treated him differently. Money found its way to him through routes he hadn't planned. Why? Not because he thought harder, but because his emotional frequency changed. This is the truth so many miss. Your feeling is your frequency. It is the key that unlocks the door. It is the signature the universe recognizes. The emotion you return to again and again becomes your magnetic code, and the law must respond to it. But herein lies the challenge. Most people do not consciously choose how they feel. They react. They feel based on circumstance. They let the outside world determine their internal state and then wonder why their reality never shifts. But you, reader, are being called higher. You are being asked not to react to your reality, but to create it by mastering the inner realm of feeling. What if you began to feel your dream into existence? What if instead of asking, "How do I get what I want?" you asked, "How can I feel as though it's already mine?" This is the forgotten art, the mystical path taught in secret chambers for centuries. To feel it real, to make the body believe, to make the nervous system resonate as if the vision were already here. There is a woman named Yara who walks the mountain path each morning with a secret smile. Years ago, she lost everything in a fire: her home, her savings, her art. But each day after the tragedy, she climbed that hill, looked at the rising sun, and whispered, "Thank you for my beautiful new studio." There was no studio, no paint, no walls, but there was feeling. She imagined the brush in her hand, the scent of oils, the warmth of sunlight on the canvas. And slowly, the world began to rearrange. An old friend donated supplies. A neighbor offered space. A stranger commissioned work. Within a year, the studio stood, not as a miracle, but as an echo of the emotion she had practiced daily. Emotion is not weakness. It is not indulgence. It is the engine of reality. It is the divine signal that tells the universe what to bring next. And when your emotion matches your vision, your manifestation becomes inevitable. This is not fantasy. It is law. You must begin to see your feelings not as responses to life, but as creative tools. You are not a victim of emotion. You are its master. You can choose joy before reason, gratitude before arrival, relief before solution. And when you do, you change your frequency and thus your fate. So how do you begin? You begin by practicing the feeling of your vision, just as an actor rehearses a role. Step into the character, feel what they would feel, move as they would move, speak as they would speak, not to pretend, but to vibrate in harmony with your chosen reality. The body cannot tell the difference between real and vividly imagined, and neither can the law. Every great mystic knew this. Every sage, every prophet, every silent master sitting cross-legged in a temple of light, they knew. To feel is to command. To feel is to become. To feel is to collapse time, to bend probability, to call forth the unseen with the clarity of faith made tangible. You are not waiting for your future, you are feeling it into being. Practice. Choose one desire. Then ask, how would I feel if this were already real? Name it. Embody it. For 5 minutes a day, close your eyes and live in that feeling. Let it fill your chest. Let it soak into your cells. Let it linger beyond the practice. Let that emotional echo follow you through your day. Do this not as a ritual of desperation, but as a devotion to your truth. Because the universe responds not to effort. It responds to vibrational certainty. And certainty is always felt before it is seen. Chapter 6. The Moment of Collapse, where time bends and possibility converges. There's a moment mysterious, invisible, and sacred, when the entire structure of what was begins to dissolve and what can be steps forward. This moment is not loud. It does not arrive with fireworks or signs. It comes in the hush, in the still space between breaths, in the subtle shift when the universe exhales and time folds in on itself. It is the moment of collapse. The instant where the illusion of linearity gives way to the bending of reality itself, and what you once believed would take years arrives with the grace of a heartbeat. This moment belongs to those who dare to live in alignment. It is not earned through striving but received through surrender, not calculated by logic but unlocked by inner coherence. Time, as you've been taught, is not what it seems. It is not a ruler measuring seconds. It is a malleable thread, a fluid ribbon that responds to your vibration. The greater your alignment, the more elastic time becomes. Those who live in fear stretch time. They wait, they ache, they grind. But those who feel into the vision with unwavering clarity, who think it, feel it, walk as if it already is, they bend time inward. They create collapse points, places where timelines converge and bring the future rushing to the now. Consider the tale of Rena, a seamstress in a forgotten coastal village. For years she toiled, believing her work insignificant. She dreamed of her gowns being worn in royal courts, though she stitched by candlelight for farmers and fishmongers. Yet something in her vision grew stronger. She began imagining each gown in vivid detail, the fabrics glowing under chandeliers, her name whispered in ballrooms. She didn't know how it would happen. She only knew how it felt. She dressed herself with intention. She blessed every stitch with royalty. And one day, a traveler wandered into her shop, a noblewoman in need of emergency tailoring. The result? Her designs walked into the very courts she had seen in her visions. Time collapsed. The years of how fell away. Her vision bent reality into form. This is the law beyond laws. You are not simply living in time, you are weaving it. Each thought you hold, each emotion you sustain, becomes a thread that weaves into the tapestry of time. Most are passive weavers, unaware of the pattern they are shaping. But you, if you are conscious, if you are deliberate, if you are tuned into your vision like a musician to a note, then you can collapse the delay. You can bend the thread back into itself and live in a moment where past, present, and future become one. But beware, the moment of collapse cannot be forced. It cannot be demanded or manipulated. It comes to those who release control, who step into resonance without obsession. If you grip too tightly, if you demand that time obey your timeline, you create friction, resistance, delay. But if you become the vibration of your desire, if you live as though it is already yours, time responds like water to a sculptor's hands, fluid, eager, and obedient. There is a monk in the eastern mountains known only as Sola. He speaks little, yet his presence bends the air around him. Those who come near report time slowing down, meals tasting richer, sunsets lingering longer, answers arriving before questions are spoken. What they do not realize is that Sola lives in continuous temporal harmony. He holds no resistance, no conflict between who he is and what he seeks. For him, there is no seeking, there is only being. His desire and his presence are one. And thus, time collapses around him, folding his destiny into his now. You have this ability, you always have. But to unlock it, you must shift from chasing to embodying. You must stop asking, when will it happen? And start asking, what would it feel like if it already had? For the universe does not operate on delay by default, it operates on frequency. And when your frequency matches the desired outcome, delay becomes irrelevant. The construct of time folds under the weight of your alignment. Let us speak clearly. You do not need time, time needs you. It stretches or collapses to match the clarity of your inner vision. The stronger your emotional certainty, the tighter the spiral draws in, the faster reality moves to meet you. This is why two people can pursue the same goal. One reaches it in a week, the other in a decade. The difference is not skill. It is not resources. It is resonance. So how do you live in this field of accelerated becoming? You slow your breath, you drop the story, you release the need, and you step into the state fully, boldly, without waiting. You imagine the version of you who already has the thing, and you become them now, not in pretense, not in fantasy, but in posture, in speech, in thought, in energy. You collapse the distance by collapsing the distinction between who you are and who you choose to be. There is a boy named Malik who lives in the heart of the city. Each morning he walks to school in shoes a size too small, through neighborhoods where dreams are rationed. But Malik sees differently. He imagines himself on stages, his voice reaching thousands, his words echoing across continents. And though the world calls him poor, he speaks with royalty. He studies with reverence. He writes his future in the margins of textbooks. And slowly, improbably, his timeline bends. The scholarship arrives. The mentor appears. The invitation comes. Not because he followed a path, but because he became the path. Time bends for those who do not wait. And so I ask you, what version of you already has the life you seek? How do they walk? What do they no longer worry about? What do they celebrate? Start living in that rhythm now. Choose it daily. Speak from it. Move from it. Pray from it. For in doing so, you are not preparing for the future. You are collapsing it into the now. Practice. Today, spend 10 minutes in complete immersion. Close your eyes. Step into a moment where your deepest desire is already fulfilled. Not tomorrow, not next year. Now. Feel the weight of that reality. Let it saturate your breath. Let your nervous system register it. Walk from that state. Talk from that state. And do not ask for it again, because you will know that it has already begun. Because time is not your master. It is your mirror, and your alignment is the hand that bends it. Chapter 7. The Law of Resonance. How the universe finds you by frequency. The universe is not listening to your words. It is not scanning your vision boards or memorizing the affirmations you recite by rote. It is not tallying your efforts like some divine accountant keeping score of your desires. No, the universe is listening for vibration. It is tuning itself to your frequency. And in this law, the law of resonance, we find one of the most sacred truths of all creation. You do not attract what you want, you attract what you are. This law does not respond to longing, no matter how poetic. It does not respond to need, no matter how urgent. It responds only to alignment. What you feel consistently, what you embody emotionally, what you radiate energetically, that is your true request to the cosmos. And the universe, flawless in its reflection, will always echo back to you the essence of your vibration. It is not a question of worthiness. You are already worthy. It is not a question of deserving. You already deserve. The only question is resonance. Are you vibrating at the level of the life you say you want? Or are you hoping it comes while remaining tethered to a frequency of fear, doubt, lack, or waiting? Imagine a violin sitting silently in a sunlit room. When another violin is played across the room, if they are tuned to the same key, the silent violin begins to hum in sympathy. It is not played, yet it sings. Why? Because the note resonates. Because vibration does not require proximity, only alignment. This is how the universe finds you. Not by chasing, not by searching, but by humming into the field that matches your being. Consider Ezra, a man who lived much of his life below the radar of hope. He worked long hours in a basement bakery, hidden from the world's gaze, rolling dough in silence. Yet within him stirred a vision so strong it vibrated through his bones, a vision of owning a bakery of light and warmth, where people came not just for bread, but for healing. Every night after his shift, he would sit in the empty storefront of a closed building and feel what it was like to welcome customers, to knead dough while laughter echoed through the walls. He walked as the owner. He breathed as the creator. And soon, without advertisement, without funding, without any logical explanation, someone offered him the very space he'd been sitting in for weeks. Not by chance, but by resonance. He had tuned himself so completely to the vibration of ownership, the universe had no choice but to reflect that truth into form. This is not magic. This is the science of spirit. This is the sacred technology of consciousness. Everything in existence carries a frequency. Abundance has a frequency. So does lack. Joy radiates a frequency just as clearly as grief. Confidence, peace, gratitude, all are measurable in their vibration. And you, the divine transmitter, are constantly sending signals into the quantum field. Most people live as if their frequency is determined by what happens around them. They let their bank accounts dictate their feeling of wealth. They let their relationships determine their sense of worth. They ride the roller coaster of life's ups and downs, adjusting their inner state like leaves blown in the wind. But the master, the true alchemist of reality, understands that the signal must be generated from within. When you generate the vibration of abundance, regardless of outer circumstances, you command the field to reflect abundance. When you sustain the vibration of love even in loneliness, you magnetize love into form. When you hold joy as your baseline frequency, the world becomes your echo chamber, singing joy back to you in unexpected ways. This is why you must become vigilant of your state, not obsessive, not rigid, but reverent. You are not a victim of random events. You are not waiting for the universe to decide your fate. You are broadcasting your fate, now, in every moment, with every emotional tone you carry. Let me tell you of Layla, a musician who once performed only for her reflection. She played in subway stations, her voice lost among the footsteps of strangers. For years, she hoped someone would notice, that fate would discover her. But nothing changed until she changed. One evening, she decided that the stage was already hers. She began performing in the subway as if it were the world's most prestigious concert hall. She dressed the part. She sang not to passers-by but to destiny itself. Her frequency shifted from waiting to be discovered to already being received. And within 3 weeks, a recording artist who had taken a wrong train exit heard her voice. The rest, as they say, is history. But it wasn't history, it was resonance. The universe did not reward her performance. It aligned with her frequency. So, I ask you now, what frequency are you living in? What are you vibrating? Not what are you saying, not what are you posting. What are you feeling, truly, in the hidden cathedral of your being? If your vision is not here yet, it is not because you are blocked or broken. It is simply that you have not yet matched its signature. And this is not a punishment. It is an invitation. The universe is not denying you. It is awaiting you. Awaiting the moment you shift from wishing to being, from craving to claiming, from hoping to humming the note of it into existence. To live in resonance is to live in truth. You can fool the world, but you cannot fool the field. The quantum responds not to performance, but to vibration. You must become what you seek, even before it arrives, even before anyone else sees it, even before it makes sense. Practice. Today, identify the frequency of what you desire. If you want wealth, ask, what does the frequency of wealth feel like? If you want peace, ask, what does the frequency of peace feel like? Then act, walk, breathe, and speak from that place. Not later, now. Not because the result is guaranteed, but because the state is already available. And when you live in that state long enough, the outer world begins to hum in harmony with your inner truth. You are not here to chase your dreams. You are here to match them. And when you do, they have no choice but to find you. Chapter 8. The Hidden Contract. What you've already agreed to remember. Before you arrived here, before the name, the skin, the story, there was a signature. Etched not in ink but in essence. A covenant made between your soul and the universe, a contract of remembrance. You agreed, long before birth, to forget who you were, only so that you might rediscover it. You agreed to walk through shadows not because you were lost, but because you were brave enough to learn how to create light from within, and you agreed, most sacredly, to wake up, to remember. The law beyond laws is not a new teaching. It is not a trend, nor a technique, nor a secret recently unearthed. It is ancient. It is encoded in your very cells. And while the world may wrap it in different languages, manifestation, law of attraction, divine mind, the essence remains unchanged. You are a soul playing a sacred game. And the game is this: will you remember what you already know? Every thought that stirs within you is not random. It is part of a dialogue between your conscious mind and your eternal essence. When a desire arises, it is not merely a want, it is a signal. A signal that you are being invited to realign with the path you already agreed to walk. You didn't come here to wander blindly. You came equipped with an inner compass that never fails. But in a world that celebrates logic over knowing, noise over silence, striving over being, that compass becomes ignored, silenced, doubted. And so we fall asleep. We become actors reading lines in a play we never auditioned for. We take jobs that silence our soul, enter relationships that mirror our wounds, and build lives based on survival rather than remembrance. But no matter how deep the sleep, the contract does not disappear. It waits. Patiently, lovingly. For the moment you stir just a little. For the whisper in the dark that says, "There is more, you were meant for more." That whisper is the first sign that your awakening has begun. In the high deserts of Peru, there lives an elder named Tomahawk, known in his village as the Keeper of Dreams. He tells a story passed down for centuries, that before each soul is born, they sit with the great council of light and craft a scroll. On this scroll they write their deepest longing, not what they wish to receive, but what they wish to become. And beside this longing, they draw the map of experiences that will awaken that becoming. Joy and pain, success and failure, isolation and connection. Each chosen not as reward or punishment, but as reminders, mirrors that would reflect them back to themselves. He tells of a woman named Camila who wept every night, believing she had lost her purpose. But when she sat in ceremony with Tomahawk, she saw it clearly: the accident that left her immobile, the lover who left, the years spent in silence, all of it had been ink on her scroll. And with that remembrance came peace. She no longer feared the unknown, for she had chosen it. She no longer asked why life was happening to her. She remembered it was happening for her, through her, because of the contract she had signed. You too wrote such a scroll. You too chose your challenges, your gifts, your deepest lessons, not from ego but from divinity. And within that scroll lies every desire you've ever had, not as fantasy but as instruction. That dream of speaking on stage? It's not arrogance. It's your soul reminding you of the voice you vowed to reclaim. That longing for love that feels like coming home? It's not desperation. It's your soul nudging you toward the vibration you were always meant to embody. That recurring pull to create, to serve, to heal, to teach, it's not coincidence. It's contractual memory reawakening. But here's the paradox. The contract can only be activated through free will. You are not forced to remember, you are gently invited. You can choose to ignore the signs, to numb the call, to stay asleep. The universe will not punish you, but it will keep offering you opportunities to remember. The same lesson, wrapped in different costumes, the same desire, whispered in different languages. And the moment you say, yes, everything begins to shift. The law beyond laws is the law of divine memory. It states that your outer reality will begin to align the moment your inner self begins to recall its truth. You do not need to fight for your purpose. You need only to say yes to it. You do not need to chase your destiny. You need only to remember what you came here to live. In a quiet studio apartment in Tokyo, a man named Hiroto sat every night sculpting with clay, though his hands were trained in engineering. Each morning, he worked a job that drained him, and each night, his fingers found life in the curves and folds of unformed matter. He told no one. He barely understood it himself. Until one day, a stranger saw his work, offered to display it, and within months, Hiroto was known not as an engineer, but as an artist of emotion. What had changed? Nothing, and everything. He simply stopped resisting the contract he had signed. You may think you're behind. You may feel you've missed your moment. But the contract does not expire. The path you were meant to walk will reappear again and again, disguised perhaps, but waiting faithfully. And the instant you step onto it, time bends. Opportunities that once eluded you return. People who resonate with your truth arrive. Miracles unfold not because you became someone new, but because you remembered who you've always been. So how do you remember? You listen, not to the world, but to the pull. That quiet pull towards certain books, songs, places, people, passions. You honor the longing that won't go away. You pay attention to the patterns, the synchronicities, the desires that refuse to die. And you stop asking for permission to be who you already are. Your memory is your map. Your desire is your compass. Your joy is your guide. These are the sacred tools you brought with you into this incarnation, wrapped in layers of amnesia, only to be peeled back when the time was right. And the time is now. Practice. Take 10 minutes to sit in stillness. Imagine yourself before birth, sitting with your higher self, writing your soul's scroll. What do you see on the paper? What themes? What passions? What repeated patterns or lessons? Then ask, what part of me is ready to be remembered today? Let the answer rise without force. Write it down. Let it become your vow. Because when you remember what you came here to live, life remembers how to support you. Chapter 9. The Sacred Delay, Why It Hasn't Shown Up Yet, and Why That's Perfect. There is a silence that lives between desire and its fulfillment. A quiet stretch of unknown, not quite absence, not quite arrival, where the thing you've called into being seems to linger just out of reach. This is the sacred delay, and though it may feel like denial, it is in truth the tender grace of divine timing. It is not punishment. It is not resistance. It is preparation. The law beyond laws honors your vision, but it also honors your readiness to receive it. You may think you are waiting for the dream, but more often than not, the dream is waiting for you. You've seen it happen, the job that seemed to vanish after the interview, the love that almost arrived but unraveled at the last moment. The opportunity that was so close you could taste it, then slipped like sand through your fingers. And yet, months or years later, something else emerges. Something better, deeper, fuller. And in that moment of hindsight, a quiet knowing rises in your chest. Ah, I see why it didn't happen then. This is the design. The universe is not ignoring you. It is arranging perfection. Imagine planting a seed in the ground and standing over it, shouting, "Why haven't you grown yet?" The laws of nature would not be hurried. They would not be shamed or shamed into blooming. They would simply continue their rhythm, silent, patient, eternal, honoring the unseen transformation beneath the soil. So too does your vision grow in the unseen. Every moment of stillness, every breath of trust, is sunlight to its becoming. There once lived a woman named Elsie in the hills of northern Wales. For decades, she dreamed of becoming a healer, not in the formal sense of hospitals and degrees, but as one who listened to the body's wisdom and restored harmony through hands and herbs. Yet every time she sought to open her practice, a roadblock emerged: illness, finances, family. It was as if life itself was saying, "Not yet." The frustration built until she wept under the moon one night, asking the stars, "Why are you keeping me from what I was born to do?" Weeks passed. Her mother fell ill. Elsie became her caretaker, and in those quiet nights of tending to her mother's breath, her pain, her memories, something shifted. She learned not the mechanics of healing, but the soul of it. She learned how to witness without rescuing, how to soothe without solving, and in that sacred delay, she became the healer she had longed to be. When her mother passed peacefully, word spread, and without effort, without advertising, people began to arrive, not because she launched a business, but because she had become the thing she desired. The delay had shaped her. You see, your dream is alive. It is not idle. It is evolving, growing roots, refining itself to meet you at the exact point where your readiness and its arrival intersect. The delay is not a denial. It is the incubation chamber of destiny, and within it, something even more precious is forged faith. Faith is not built in the moment of receiving. Faith is cultivated in the long hallway of waiting. It is the sacred muscle that is strengthened each time you choose trust over panic, presence over doubt, gratitude over grasping. This faith becomes the foundation that can sustain the weight of what is coming. Without it, your blessing could become your burden. In a quiet apartment in Seoul, a young musician named Jun wrote songs that made the soul ache with beauty. He uploaded them quietly online, year after year, with barely any recognition. His friends found fame, his neighbors moved on, and still he created. "Why won't it happen for me?" he asked the wind. But the wind did not answer. Until one winter morning, a stranger, a film director, found his song by accident and chose it as the heartbeat of an award-winning short film. Overnight, Jun's music spread. Not because he begged for it, but because he had ripened. The time was finally right. Had it come earlier, he might have crumbled under its weight. But now he was ready. Solid, soft, sacredly grounded. There is a divine intelligence to delay. The law beyond laws ensures that nothing arrives a moment too soon or a second too late. You may feel forgotten, you may think you've missed it. But the truth is, more stunning, your vision is circling you, seeking entry, waiting for the moment when your frequency matches its fullness. This is not passive waiting. This is active alignment. So what do? While the thing you want is still becoming, you become too. You become the version of yourself that can hold it. You release the need to chase, to grasp, to control. You tend to your joy. You follow the golden threads of passion, play, and presence. You trust that delay is never without purpose. You must also understand that the sacred delay is often a clearing. When something new is to enter, the old must dissolve, not always dramatically, sometimes gently. A shift in friendships, a release of old identities, a changing of environments. You may find yourself in a season of pruning. Things fall away not to hurt you, but to make room. Don't cling to the outdated. Don't mourn the detour. You are not being punished. You are being prepared. Practice this. Close your eyes and visualize the thing you've been waiting for. Feel it vividly. Let your breath expand with the reality of its arrival. Then say out loud, "I trust divine timing. I release the how. I become the who." Feel the shift. You are not just wishing, you are participating in creation. You are aligning yourself with the law that says, what is meant for you cannot miss you, but it can wait until you're ready. And readiness is not perfection. Readiness is resonance. When your heart is clear, when your mind is open, when your body feels safe, the dream will arrive because it was never far. It was simply waiting for the soul to say, I am no longer becoming. I am now being. So let go of the calendar. Let go of the rush and embrace the rhythm. Your life is not behind. It is in tune. The sacred delay is not a pause. It is the final inhale before the exhale of destiny. You are not waiting. You are becoming. Chapter 10. The Unwritten Rule. You become what you rehearse in silence. There is a law that few speak of, yet it governs everything you are becoming. It is not written in books nor chanted in temples, but it is etched in the very fabric of how reality responds to you. It is this: you become what you rehearse in silence. Not what you say aloud, not what you post online, not what you convince others of with clever words and sparkling smiles, but what you practice in the quiet where no eyes are watching. That inner world, the secret theater of your becoming, is where the universe takes its cue. Silently, subtly, constantly, you are rehearsing. Every inner conversation, every repeated memory, every vision you entertain in your moments of solitude becomes part of the energetic blueprint that your outer world must obey. You may think nothing of it, a quiet daydream here, a spiral of worry there, but the law does not differentiate between imagination and reality. What you rehearse, you become. What you feel repeatedly, you attract. What you embody in stillness, you call forth in form. There once lived a man named Elias, a humble calligrapher in a forgotten village nestled between ancient cedars. Each night, after the world had gone to sleep, he would light a candle and write affirmations in flowing script on sheets of parchment, not for sale, not for an audience, but for himself. I am a master of beauty. I create from the divine. Over and over, for hours. His hands knew the rhythm. His heart knew the truth. Decades passed, and few knew of his art. But one day, a traveler stumbled upon his forgotten parchments, and within a year, Elias's sacred scripts were displayed in temples and libraries across the world. The recognition came not from ambition, but from repetition. He had rehearsed greatness in silence, and eventually, the world echoed it back. You must understand that your inner world is not passive. It is the womb of creation. What you do there, what you entertain, what you repeat, what you allow is far more powerful than what you do externally. Because while the outer world is reactive and delayed, the inner world is instant and electric. It holds the mold from which matter takes its shape. So, if you rehearse defeat, even in jest, the universe listens. If you rehearse fear, even in your imagination, the energetic field conforms. But if you rehearse confidence, joy, wholeness, even when no one sees it, especially then, you begin to shift the gravitational pull of your life. Let us not pretend this is easy. It takes sacred discipline to guard your inner sanctuary. The world tempts you with distractions and noise. Your past rises with familiar voices whispering, "You've tried this before." But the unwritten rule does not care about your history. It responds only to what you are rehearsing now. You can have rehearsed unworthiness for 20 years, and in a single season of conscious rehearsal, begin to become someone entirely new. There is power in repetition, and not just any repetition, but embodied rehearsal. Don't just speak the words, feel them. Live them in the theater of your inner eye. Imagine yourself walking into rooms with presence. See yourself laughing with freedom. Visualize abundance pouring in, not as fantasy, but as memory, as if it has already occurred, and you are merely remembering it. In Tokyo, there was a dancer named Hana who had injured her leg in a brutal fall, doctors unsure if she would ever perform again. Yet every day, she would lie in bed and rehearse her entire choreography in her mind, step by step, breath by breath. Not in desperation, but in faith. She visualized the spotlight, the applause, the joy in her body. Her muscles began responding. Her nerves began healing faster than predicted. And months later, when she returned to the stage, critics said it was as if she had never left. But Hana knew the truth she never had. She had rehearsed herself into resurrection. What do you rehearse when no one is watching? Do you spiral into scarcity? Or do you declare, even in whispers, I am becoming the most magnetic version of myself? Do you replay old wounds or recite your future with conviction? The law beyond laws hears what the lips do not say. It responds to the frequency beneath your facade. In the stillness, you must train yourself, not with pressure, but with reverence. This is not about performance. This is about energetic alignment. When you sit alone in your room and imagine your life flourishing, you are not pretending, you are pre-paving. You are smoothing the road ahead with the brushstrokes of mental rehearsal. You are becoming acquainted with the frequency of the life you desire. And, eventually, inevitably, your outer world will rise to meet it. There is an old practice used by sages in the Eastern Highlands, the whispered becoming. At dawn, before speech is spoken aloud, they whisper who they are becoming into the morning air. I am the vessel of divine wealth. I walk in unwavering peace. My vision draws all I need. They do not shout. They do not beg. They whisper because they know that the universe does not require volume. It requires vibration. Start this practice. Each morning, before the world wakes, rehearse. Whisper your truth into the ethers. See your vision playing out behind your eyes. Embody the energy you wish to radiate, even for 5 minutes. Do not rush, do not force, just become. This is your craft now, not wishing, not forcing, but rehearsing, until your inner world is so rich, so vibrant, so real, that your outer world has no choice but to match it. What you rehearse in silence is what the universe will amplify and form. You do not need to shout your truth to the rooftops. You only need to become it quietly, consistently, reverently. The law beyond laws is listening, and it responds not to the loudest, but to the most aligned. Chapter 10. The Unwritten Rule. You become what you rehearse in silence. There is a law that few speak of, yet it governs everything you are becoming. It is not written in books, nor chanted in temples, but it is etched in the very fabric of how reality responds to you. It is this: you become what you rehearse in silence. Not what you say aloud, not what you post online, not what you convince others of with clever words and sparkling smiles, but what you practice in the quiet where no eyes are watching. That inner world, the secret theater of your becoming, is where the universe takes its cue. Silently, subtly, constantly, you are rehearsing. Every inner conversation, every repeated memory, every vision you entertain in your moments of solitude becomes part of the energetic blueprint that your outer world must obey. You may think nothing of it, a quiet daydream here, a spiral of worry there, but the law does not differentiate between imagination and reality. What you rehearse, you become. What you feel repeatedly, you attract. What you embody in stillness, you call forth in form. There once lived a man named Elias, a humble calligrapher in a forgotten village nestled between ancient cedars. Each night, after the world had gone to sleep, he would light a candle and write affirmations in flowing script on sheets of parchment, not for sale, not for an audience, but for himself. I am a master of beauty. I create from the divine, over and over, for hours. His hands knew the rhythm, his heart knew the truth. Decades passed, and few knew of his art. But one day, a traveler stumbled upon his forgotten parchments, and within a year, Elias's sacred scripts were displayed in temples and libraries across the world. The recognition came not from ambition, but from repetition. He had rehearsed greatness in silence, and eventually, the world echoed it back. You must understand that your inner world is not passive. It is the womb of creation. What you do there, what you entertain, what you repeat, what you allow is far more powerful than what you do externally. Because while the outer world is reactive and delayed, the inner world is instant and electric. It holds the mold from which matter takes its shape. So, if you rehearse defeat, even in jest, the universe listens. If you rehearse fear, even in your imagination, the energetic field conforms. But if you rehearse confidence, joy, wholeness, even when no one sees it especially, then you begin to shift the gravitational pull of your life. Let us not pretend this is easy. It takes sacred discipline to guard your inner sanctuary. The world tempts you with distractions and noise. Your past rises with familiar voices whispering, "You've tried this before." But the unwritten rule does not care about your history. It responds only to what you are rehearsing now. You can have rehearsed unworthiness for 20 years, and in a single season of conscious rehearsal, begin to become someone entirely new. There is power in repetition, and not just any repetition, but embodied rehearsal. Don't just speak the words, feel them, live them in the theater of your inner eye. Imagine yourself walking into rooms with presence. See yourself laughing with freedom. Visualize abundance pouring in, not as fantasy, but as memory, as if it has already occurred, and you are merely remembering it. In Tokyo, there was a dancer named Hana who had injured her leg in a brutal fall, doctors unsure if she would ever perform again. Yet every day, she would lie in bed and rehearse her entire choreography in her mind, step by step, breath by breath, not in desperation, but in faith. She visualized the spotlight, the applause, the joy in her body. Her muscles began responding. Her nerves began healing faster than predicted. And months later, when she returned to the stage, critics said it was as if she had never left. But Hana knew the truth she never had. She had rehearsed herself into resurrection. What do you rehearse when no one is watching? Do you spiral into scarcity? Or do you declare, even in whispers, "I am becoming the most magnetic version of myself"? Do you replay old wounds? Or recite your future with conviction? The law beyond laws hears what the lips do not say. It responds to the frequency beneath your facade. In the stillness, you must train yourself. Not with pressure, but with reverence. This is not about performance. This is about energetic alignment. When you sit alone in your room and imagine your life flourishing, you are not pretending, you are pre-paving. You are smoothing the road ahead with the brushstrokes of mental rehearsal. You are becoming acquainted with the frequency of the life you desire, and eventually, inevitably, your outer world will rise to meet it. There is an old practice used by sages in the Eastern Highlands, the whispered becoming. At dawn, before speech is spoken aloud, they whisper who they are becoming into the morning air. I am the vessel of divine wealth. I walk in unwavering peace. My vision draws all I need. They do not shout, they do not beg. They whisper because they know that the universe does not require volume. It requires vibration. Start this practice. Each morning, before the world wakes, rehearse. Whisper your truth into the ethers. See your vision playing out behind your eyes. Embody the energy you wish to radiate, even for 5 minutes. Do not rush, do not force, just become. This is your craft now, not wishing, not forcing, but rehearsing, until your inner world is so rich, so vibrant, so real, that your outer world has no choice but to match it. What you rehearse in silence is what the universe will amplify in form. You do not need to shout your truth to the rooftops. You only need to become it quietly, consistently, reverently. The law beyond laws is listening, and it responds not to the loudest, but to the most aligned. Chapter 11. The Illusion of Effort, When Less Does More. In a world obsessed with hustle, with grind, with the relentless ticking of clocks and the stacking of tasks, there lies a truth so revolutionary that most dismiss it outright, not because it is false, but because it is too powerful, too simple, too contrary to everything we've been taught. The truth is this: the universe does not respond to how hard you work, it responds to how aligned you are. And in alignment, less effort creates more results. This is the law beyond laws. This is the paradox that breaks the chains of exhaustion and unlocks the door to a reality shaped by ease, not strain. It is not that action is unimportant, but effort born of misalignment is like pushing a boulder uphill with your eyes closed. You sweat, you struggle, you bleed, and yet you go nowhere. Meanwhile, a single, precise nudge in the direction of flow taken from a state of inner clarity can unleash an avalanche of synchronicity, support, and success that effort alone could never summon. This is not laziness. This is precision. It is the sacred art of doing less while allowing more. There once lived a tailor named Omar in the bustling city of Fez. While other merchants shouted their offerings, flooded the markets with colorful fabrics, and stayed open from dawn to midnight, Omar's shop remained still. No sign, no shouting, no open display. He worked by appointment only, and rarely more than a few hours a day. People mocked him, whispered that he was lazy, arrogant, doomed to fail. And yet, his clients were royalty, scholars, spiritual leaders. They came not because of advertisement, but because his work radiated energy. Every stitch, every fold was done in meditation. He would wait until the exact moment he felt aligned, and then and only then would he create. And what he created was sought after far and wide, not because he worked the hardest, but because he worked from alignment. Omar understood what most never learn, that right timing and right energy are worth more than 10,000 rushed actions. Effort that is disconnected from your inner compass becomes noise. It's a treadmill that never stops, a race with no finish line. But when you pause, center yourself, and align with the unseen flow, you step into a different stream entirely. The current carries you. Doors open without knocking. People show up as if summoned. The impossible becomes casual, because now you are working with the universe, not against it. Consider the story of Isadora, a young woman in New Zealand who spent years desperately chasing her dream of being an artist. She pushed herself to paint endlessly, to market her work aggressively, to copy the successful formulas she saw online. But her art felt lifeless. Sales were rare. Her joy had become diluted by the weight of expectation. One winter, burnt out and bitter, she stopped. For 3 months, she did nothing. She walked in silence. She listened to the wind. She meditated by the sea, and slowly she began to feel something stir, not from fear, but from presence. One morning, without planning, she painted again. But this time, it poured through her. Effortlessly, powerfully. She uploaded the piece online, just one post. Within hours, it was shared thousands of times. A collector from overseas bought it for more than she had made in the last 2 years combined. Isadora's life changed not through more effort but through surrender and alignment. She had finally found the current. You see, there is a rhythm to your life that cannot be controlled, only felt. You are not meant to fight against it. You are meant to feel your way into it. The law beyond laws whispers, your power is not in doing more, but in knowing when to do, what to do, and how to do it from a place of inner stillness. A sword swung blindly may miss its mark, but a single, deliberate stroke delivered from stillness cuts through all illusion. Most are addicted to struggle, because struggle feels noble. We've been taught that to deserve reward, we must suffer. But this is not universal law, this is cultural programming. The universe does not reward you based on how much you endure. It responds to the quality of your vibration. Your energy is the currency, not your exhaustion. When your inner field is clean, when you act from a space of centered knowing, your small actions ripple outward with exponential power. Think of the archer. Before releasing the arrow, he pauses, breathes, waits, aligns the bow. It takes him but a moment to let go, yet that moment carries more force than hours of flailing about. This is your task: to pause long enough to find your center, to tune your inner compass so precisely that even the smallest action becomes a portal to the miraculous. So let go of the addiction to busyness. Let go of the pressure to prove yourself through sweat and sacrifice. You are not here to force life into submission. You are here to allow life to rise to meet you. And it will, but only when you move from alignment. Only when your vibration matches the reality you desire. Begin to ask yourself, am I moving from force or from flow? Am I acting from fear or from clarity? Is this effort rooted in alignment or in anxiety? These questions are your compass. Let them guide you home. And then, do less, but do it from the depths of your soul. Make fewer moves, but let every move be magnetic. Speak less often, but let every word carry weight. Act only when your energy is true, and watch how reality bends to serve you. This is not passivity, this is mastery. The sage moves not to escape work, but to elevate it. They know that aligned effort is holy, that one pure act from alignment contains more power than 1,000 frantic ones done in fear. The law beyond laws bends for those who understand this sacred truth. When you are in tune with the divine rhythm, you do not chase, you attract. You do not strain, you allow. You do not force, you become. Practice this today. Find one area where you are pushing too hard. Step back, breathe. Ask for alignment first, then move. Let your actions be few, but let them be precise. Feel the ease in your body. Feel the truth in your bones. And remember, effort is only divine when it arises from alignment. When your inner world says yes, the outer world responds in kind. And in that stillness, you will do less, but you will manifest so much more. Chapter 12. The Observer's Code. Reality changes when you watch differently. What if the mere act of observing something could change it? What if reality did not exist in fixed form, but instead flowed and fluctuated according to the lens through which it was witnessed? This is not a poetic metaphor. This is a sacred truth echoed in the most ancient spiritual teachings and mirrored in the cutting edge of quantum science. The world you see does not exist independent of you. It shifts, evolves, and reshapes itself based on the consciousness that observes it. This is the observer's code, a forgotten key to the universe. Where you place your attention and how you place your attention quite literally sculpts the world around you. To see is not a passive act. To see is to engage, to entangle, to impress yourself upon the scene. This is why two people can witness the same event and walk away with two entirely different realities. It is not the event that defines experience, it is the level of awareness that brings it into focus. You are not merely watching life happen. You are participating in its unfolding simply by choosing where you look and how you interpret what you see. Every gaze carries a frequency. Every focus is a creative force. There was once a monk named Jivan who lived at the edge of a forest in northern India. His daily practice was simple. He would walk the same path to the river and sit for hours observing the current. One day, a traveler stopped and asked, "Why do you sit and watch water flow? Isn't it the same every day?" Jivan smiled and replied, "Because every day I watch it differently, and so it shows me something new. The river is not the same, and neither am I." This exchange holds the essence of the observer's code. What you watch reflects not itself, but your state of being. If you observe the world through fear, you will find danger in every shadow. If you observe it through hope, miracles seem to bloom in the cracks of everyday life. The outer reflects the inner with exquisite precision. The key is not to change the world by force, but to elevate your perception. Because the moment your perception changes, reality follows. The great mystics taught that to observe with detachment, not indifference, but sacred neutrality, is to activate the power of manifestation. When you observe a desire not from longing, but from knowing that it is already yours, you collapse the distance between you and that desire. The act of seeing it as done brings it closer. This is not wishful thinking, this is energetic convergence. The observer becomes the bridge between the unseen and the seen. Your belief, your focus, and your inner stance act like coordinates the universe uses to arrange matter. Consider the story of Elena, a botanist who had been trying to cultivate a rare flower in her greenhouse for nearly 3 years. No matter the soil, the sunlight, the nutrients, it refused to bloom. Frustrated, she left for a retreat where a wise elder asked her a single question. "When you check the soil each morning, what are you expecting to find?" She paused. "Failure," she admitted. "I always expect it still hasn't worked." The elder smiled gently. "Then that's what your garden gives you. Observe differently. Bless the soil. Expect life." When Elena returned, she approached her greenhouse with a new consciousness. She no longer looked for proof of failure, she looked for signs of blooming. She began greeting her plants each morning as if they had already succeeded. Within weeks, buds appeared. Within 2 months, the flower she had waited 3 years for burst open, radiant and full. The change did not come from the soil, it came from her eyes. She had rewritten her reality by rewriting the story she carried into her observation. You see, the mind is a projector. Your beliefs, assumptions, and inner expectations form the real, and the light of your awareness casts that film onto the canvas of life. The more emotional energy you bring to your observations, the more deeply etched the patterns become. To watch in fear is to etch patterns of limitation. To observe with reverence is to inscribe beauty into the bones of reality. The observer's code is also the key to releasing resistance. When you stop watching lack, lack begins to dissolve. When you stop scanning for what's missing, you start seeing what is present. And what is present begins to grow. This is how you shift timelines. You do not force your way into a new reality, you watch for it with devotion. You choose to observe the frequency of what you desire, not the frequency of what you fear, and by doing so, you draw it nearer. In the town of Winterfell, a man named Roman was known for being perpetually unlucky. Accidents followed him, doors closed in his face, opportunities seemed to disappear just as he arrived. A local teacher finally sat him down and said, "Roman, what do you look for each day?" he replied. "Signs that things will go wrong so I can be prepared." The teacher shook his head. "Then you are the one preparing them." Roman began a practice of what the teacher called receptive observation. Each morning, before speaking or acting, he would spend 10 minutes watching the world, but looking only for harmony, for alignment, for ease. The first week, nothing changed. The second week, small things began happening. Smoother conversations, delayed buses arriving on time, unexpected help. Within months, his life had transformed. It wasn't magic, it was awareness, wielded wisely. This is the power that lives in your gaze. You are not here to control the world, you are here to bless it with how you see. You are not a bystander in your story, you are the author disguised as the reader. Shift your observation, and you rewrite the plot. So ask yourself daily, what reality am I observing into existence? Are you watching your dreams unfold with reverence or scanning your fears with suspicion? Are you searching for cracks in the foundation or witnessing the bricks being laid by unseen hands? To observe differently is to live differently. To watch the world not through the eyes of lack, but through the lens of divine unfolding, is to awaken to a truth most never see, that reality is not static. It is a mirror, polished by your gaze. Practice this today. Pick one situation that feels stuck. Observe it differently. See not what is broken, but what is blooming. Watch for evidence that it is already transforming. Expect signs. Expect synchronicity. Expect ease. The universe will rise to match your sight. For reality, dear soul, is not something you stumble into blindly. It is something you summon by how you choose to see. Chapter 13. The Timing Secret. When Waiting is Creating. There is a rhythm that governs all things, not dictated by clocks or calendars, but by the silent pulse of divine intelligence moving through the unseen. This rhythm does not rush, it does not panic. It does not bow to impatience. Instead, it hums beneath every seed in the soil, every star in the sky, and every dream held quietly in the heart. It is called divine timing, and when understood, it reveals a truth most never learn: that waiting, when done consciously, is not delay, it is creation. We have been conditioned to believe that action is the only language the universe understands, that stillness is weakness, that rest is a lack of momentum. But in the ancient temples of wisdom, the sages taught otherwise. They knew that the most potent forces in nature act invisibly, that mountains are moved first by energy and only later by hands, that what appears dormant is often gathering its greatest strength. The timing secret reveals that manifestation does not follow linear steps, it follows resonance. And until the internal frequency matches the external form, the universe does not release the next piece. Not out of punishment, but out of perfection. There once lived a woman named Marin in the seaside town of Calthus. For years, she envisioned a sanctuary for orphaned children, a place where they would be nurtured like gardens, not merely fed and housed. Every morning she walked the same path along the cliffs, whispering her vision into the wind. Yet years passed. No land, no funds, no help, just silence. But Marin did not despair. She knew the law of timing. She knew that while it looked like nothing was happening, everything was aligning beyond her field of vision. And then, on an ordinary spring morning, a visitor came to town, a man who had just inherited acres of unused land and was seeking someone with a pure vision to steward it. He had heard of Marin's daily walks, her quiet persistence, her unwavering clarity. Within a month, her sanctuary stood on that very land, built not through hustle but through harmony, built not on control but on divine convergence. Her waiting was not passive, it was a form of sacred creation. When you wait with alignment, with clarity, with faith, with quiet expectation, you are not stalling, you are sculpting energy into form. The mind wants speed, but the soul wants alignment. And the universe responds not to your urgency, but to your resonance. It is not asking, how fast can you move? It is asking, how clearly can you become what you desire? There is a myth in modern society that if it doesn't happen now, it won't happen at all. But the greatest manifestations are those that steep, like ancient teas, those that root deeply before blooming. Look at nature. The bamboo seed spends years growing unseen beneath the earth. Then, almost overnight, it shoots up faster than any other plant. The delay was not dysfunction, it was foundation. So too with your vision. If it seems slow to arrive, it may be because your roots are being nourished in realms you cannot yet see. The people you will meet, the synchronicities that will unfold, the pathways that will open, all are being arranged behind the curtain. Your job is not to force the curtain to rise. Your job is to hold the vibration until it does. Consider Terence, a musician who poured his soul into hundreds of songs with no recognition. Record labels passed him over. Audiences dwindled. Friends urged him to give up. But Terence knew something they didn't. He knew that timing was not up to him, but his readiness was. So he played as if the world was already listening. He performed with the joy of someone whose dream had already landed. And then one day, years later, a single song he recorded on a whim was picked up by a filmmaker and featured in an award-winning movie. Within a year, his music was everywhere, not because he forced it, but because he stayed aligned long enough for timing to catch up. You see, time is not a barrier, it is a bridge. And while you walk it, your role is not to run, but to become. Become the frequency of the reality you seek. Become the one who already has what they desire. And then, when the moment is ripe, it will come not as a struggle, but as a natural unfolding, like fruit falling from a tree, heavy with ripeness. There is no wasted time when you wait consciously. Every moment in alignment is shaping the formless. Every moment in presence is signaling to the universe, I am ready to receive, but I do not chase. It is this stillness, this silent certainty, that magnetizes what is yours. And when you arrive at that perfect point in the timeline, not earlier, not later, you will realize that the waiting was never empty. It was sacred gestation. Let us remember the story of Sapphira, an artisan potter who crafted intricate clay vessels with symbols of stars and ancient scripts. She had one dream, that her work would sit in the temples of wisdom she had only ever seen in books. She created tirelessly, but her village never understood her art. Still, she waited. She created. She aligned, until a traveling sage stopped in her town, drawn to her work as if by invisible thread. He brought her pieces to a monastery high in the mountains, where they were placed not just as decoration, but as sacred tools of ceremony. Sapphira had not missed her timing. She had aligned with it. So ask yourself now, am I creating while I wait? Or am I resisting the pace of my path? Am I trusting the rhythm of my soul's unfolding, or demanding life unfold on my timeline? The law beyond laws teaches us, time bends for those who wait with faith. Reality yields for those who hold their vision without wavering. The seed does not bloom because it's pushed. It blooms because it's time. Practice this today. Pick one desire you've been growing impatient with. Instead of questioning when it will arrive, embody the person who already lives within its fulfillment. Speak from that energy. Act from that energy. Radiate that certainty. Let your stillness become louder than your striving. Because in the end, it's not the fastest who create the life they want. It's the most faithful. And in your sacred waiting, you are not falling behind. You are being woven into the exact moment the universe has chosen for your blooming. Chapter 14. The Mirror Principle. Reality reflects, it doesn't resist. Imagine a still, clear lake at dawn, its surface untroubled by the wind, perfectly mirroring the sky above. In that reflection, you see not only the clouds and the golden light of morning, but also a true picture of all that is hidden beneath. This, dear soul, is the essence of the mirror principle. Reality is not a force to be battled or overcome. It is an immaculate reflection of your inner world. Every thought you entertain, every emotion you nurture, every belief you hold, is echoed back to you from the vast reservoir of existence, unfiltered and exact in its correspondence. The world does not resist you, it simply shows you what you have become. When you first step into this understanding, you may feel as though you are staring into a mirror that reveals uncomfortable truths, doubts, fears, and limitations you have been conditioned to accept. Yet here lies the opportunity. The mirror does not lie. It offers you the raw, unadorned image of your inner state, and if you are willing to look, you can begin to see the seeds of transformation. Like the ancient saying goes, as within, so without. The reflection that greets you is the living testament to the frequency you emit. If you wish for abundance, but your inner image portrays scarcity, the world will mirror scarcity back to you. If you long for love, yet carry the burden of unworthiness, you will find love reflected as conditional and fleeting. It is the sacred duty of every conscious creator to cleanse the mirror of their mind, to polish the inner surface until it radiates the image of their highest self. Consider the story of Marcel, a humble craftsman in a small European town whose workshop was filled with tools and unfinished projects. For years, he toiled, always feeling that something was missing, not because his work lacked skill, but because his heart carried an image of limitation. Every day he would labor over his creations, yet no matter how finely he carved or how intricately he assembled, his efforts seemed to yield only frustration and fleeting satisfaction. One quiet evening, Marcel sat alone by a weathered mirror in his workshop. Instead of beginning another task, he stared deeply into his own eyes, allowing himself to witness the truth he had long avoided. His self-image was one of perpetual lack and minor achievement. In that long, silent moment, something shifted. The mirror, once a cold reminder of his limitations, began to soften its gaze. Marcel felt an unexpected surge of clarity, an inner knowing that if he could transform the image within, the world outside would change accordingly. He resolved to begin each day by affirming his inherent worth, his destined greatness, and his right to receive abundance. Over time, as his inner mirror became clearer and more radiant, his fortunes shifted. Customers began to seek out his work. Opportunities arrived effortlessly, as if the universe had been waiting for the moment he finally believed in his own brilliance. This is the power of the mirror principle. Reality is the faithful reflection of the deep, internal image you maintain. In another corner of the world, there was a woman named Solange whose life seemed like a series of broken reflections. Her relationships were fraught with conflict, her career mired in unfulfilled promise, and her days shadowed by self-doubt. Yet deep inside her, a quiet voice whispered a secret too subtle for the external world to grasp. You are the artist of your own reality. Solange began to experiment with this truth by intentionally shifting her inner dialogue. Each morning before facing the day, she would stand before a mirror and softly recite a new image of herself, one of love, competence, and joy. At first, the transformation was not dramatic. The reflections in her eyes carried the weight of old wounds, and the familiar critics of her mind continued to murmur. However, with persistence and gentle practice, her inner image began to clear. She no longer saw the defeated woman of the past, but one emerging with quiet confidence. And slowly, the world responded. The colleagues who once dismissed her now offered respectful nods and opportunities. The relationships she had long struggled to maintain gradually evolved into partnerships built on mutual trust and admiration. For Solange had learned that the mirror of reality does not change because you force it, it changes because you redefine what you hold within. The mirror principle is not a call for complacency, but an invitation to radical self-honesty. It asks, what image do you project? What truth are you broadcasting to the cosmos with every thought, every feeling, every silent moment? It is a simple yet profound equation. The outer world is a faithful reproduction of the inner state. Therefore, if you wish to see a world filled with light, love, and abundance, you must first cultivate an inner world that mirrors these qualities. This transformative process is not instantaneous. It is a gradual unveiling, a slow polishing of the mirror until it reflects the brilliance of your true self. It involves the discipline of self-inquiry, the courage to face what you have long ignored, and the humble acceptance that what appears outside is merely a reflection of what you have chosen to nourish within. Every time you experience a setback, a disappointment, or a moment of suffering, remember that the mirror is showing you not what is, but what you have consistently believed. It is providing you with the most honest feedback, calling you to adjust, to shift, to evolve, and in that adjustment, you begin to realign. Each small change in your inner state creates ripples that eventually transform the very fabric of your reality. You are not an accident, nor are you a victim of chance. You are the sculptor of your destiny, and every day your inner gaze molds the future in the image you hold close. To engage with the mirror principle is to commit to daily practices that refine your inner image. It requires you to cultivate moments of introspection, to meditate on the nature of your thoughts, and to consistently speak affirmations that resonate with the truth of who you are. It is a sacred ritual, almost like a form of prayer, where you express gratitude for the beauty within and reflect that beauty back out to the universe. This practice might include journaling about the qualities you want to embody, meditating upon the image of your future self, or simply sitting in silence and watching the thoughts that arise, discarding those that do not serve the vision you hold. In essence, the mirror always shows you what you are. And if you desire a world of limitless abundance, compassionate relationships, and creativity beyond measure, then you must first become an image of that ideal reality from within. The transformation begins not by altering external circumstances through force, but by reshaping your internal landscape so that your outer world naturally aligns with your highest truth. This is the crux of the mirror principle, to understand that every external challenge, every unexpected twist, every moment of seeming misfortune is a gift. It is an opportunity to refine the image you carry within. It is a call to step back, to look into the mirror without judgment, and to see the reflection not as a mirror of deficiency, but as an invitation to greatness. When you embrace the truth that the world is your reflection, you unlock the power to create a future that is as boundless and beautiful as the vision in your heart. Practice. Today, stand before a mirror. Gaze gently into your own eyes without emotion or expectation. Ask yourself, what image am I projecting? Write down the first 3 qualities that come to mind. Then, choose one quality you would like to see reflected more fully in your life. Close your eyes and visualize that quality radiating from you with every breath. Feel it as a truth deep inside, as if it already exists in the world around you. Let this exercise become a daily ritual, means to polish the mirror until it reveals the masterpiece that is you. Remember, the mirror of the universe reflects only what you are. Change what you hold within, and the world will change with you. Chapter 15. The Alchemy of Intention. how your thoughts transmute into reality. There is a chamber in the unseen architecture of the universe where thought meets essence, where vision touches vibration, and where the raw formlessness of spirit condenses into matter. It is here, in this sacred crucible, that the alchemy of intention unfolds. And you, dear traveler, are not merely a passive observer of life, you are an alchemist. Your thoughts are the ingredients, your emotions, the fire, and your sustained intention, the philosopher's stone that transmutes possibility into form. In every moment, whether conscious or not, you are transmuting energy into outcomes, awareness into experience. The world around you is not reacting to you, it is becoming you. In ancient texts and temples lost to time, sages whispered this law in symbols and silence, that everything seen begins first in the unseen, and that the force shaping it all is intention, clear, unwavering, alive. Intention is not the same as desire. It is deeper, richer, more rooted in certainty. Desire may wish, may waver, may cling to outcome, but intention simply knows. It is the silent decree of the soul. When you intend something with clarity, backed by feeling, nourished with trust, and carried with consistent focus, the entire matrix of reality rearranges itself to obey your command. This is not fantasy. This is not superstition. This is the most ancient truth you've always known, buried beneath layers of doubt and conditioning you are here to create. Take the story of Alaric, a simple potter in a quiet hill village. Each morning before his hands touched the clay, he would sit in stillness and speak to his creations, not as inanimate forms, but as vessels already alive with purpose. "You shall hold peace," he would say. "You shall bring beauty into the home that welcomes you." His customers never knew why his pots seemed to calm the room, or why his bowls seemed to radiate harmony. But they returned, again and again, drawn by something unseen. What they felt was not the clay, nor the shape, nor the color. It was Alaric's intention, baked into the very molecules of his work. His focus had become a frequency, and frequency is law. This is the alchemy. You are now being invited into the recognition that your intention is not some soft whisper of hope, but a directive that shapes the world at the quantum level. In the same way that a magnet organizes iron filings into perfect structure, your intention organizes energy into experience. The moment you say, "It is done," with every cell in alignment, not as wish, but as embodiment, the unseen begins its descent into the seen. And time, space, and logic will bend to accommodate that which you have declared. But the art lies in consistency. Most minds scatter. They want a thing, then doubt it, then fear it, then chase something else entirely. This is not alchemy, this is noise. The universe does not respond to mixed signals. It listens to clarity. It obeys certainty. When your thoughts contradict each other, your creations cancel themselves out. The key is inner congruence. Every thought, every belief, every word, and every emotional undertone must point in one direction, the reality you choose to call forth. There was once a healer named Seema who lived by a great river where time itself seemed to flow more slowly. Her patients came to her with ailments that baffled the modern mind. And while others prescribed medicine, Seema prescribed vision. She would sit beside them, close her eyes, and say, "Let us intend together," not for the absence of illness, but for the presence of wholeness. Together they would hold the image of vibrant health, not someday, not if, but now. Some healed instantly, others gradually. A few not at all, not because intention had failed, but because their beliefs were louder than their focus. For intention is not a force that overrides your free will. It works in harmony with what you deeply expect. And what you expect is what you allow. So what, then, is the process of alchemy. It begins with stillness. In the quiet of your own mind, you must find the furnace where your thoughts ignite. You must choose one vision, one desire, and hold it as already done. See it, not vaguely, but in vivid clarity. Feel it, not theoretically, but as sensation in your body. Believe it, not as a concept, but as a known truth. Then, and this is where most falter, you must release it. Just as the alchemist seals the furnace and allows the transformation to occur in darkness, so must you trust that your intention is now working, unseen but unstoppable. The letting go is not abandonment, it is faith. It is the understanding that your role is to choose, and the universe's role is to arrange. Riona, a young artist who once struggled with crippling self-doubt, learned this through trial and surrender. She had vision but no confidence, talent but no belief. One day, standing before an empty canvas, she whispered, "I am no longer the struggling artist. I am the vessel through which beauty arrives." And she painted not to impress, not to succeed, but to express the truth she had chosen to embody. Within weeks, her work was featured in a gallery she had once been too afraid to even visit. The shift had not been in her brushstrokes. It had been in her identity, in the fire of intention she had finally chosen to light. And so must you choose, with clarity, with feeling, with reverence. For this is the secret the mystics carried across centuries, across lifetimes. Your thoughts are not passive, they are commands. They summon, they shape, they create. The clearer your intention, the stronger the current. The more aligned your thoughts and emotions, the faster the manifestation. The more complete your trust, the more elegant the unfolding. This is not magic. It is divine architecture. If you understood how profoundly the universe listens, you would never again speak in fear. You would never again think in doubt. You would guard your inner dialogue as sacred, and every intention you set would be placed on the altar of creation with devotion. The world you experience tomorrow begins in the intention you set today. So, here is your practice. Choose one vision, not many, just one. Something that matters to you, something your soul longs to experience. Write it as if it is already true. Speak it aloud. Feel it in your breath, hold it in your being, and then release it. Trust that the cosmic alchemy has begun, that forces invisible are already moving to bring this reality into being. Return to it daily, not to force, but to align. Not to beg, but to affirm. This is the sacred discipline of the alchemist, to hold, to feel, to know, and to let go. The world is not waiting to give you what you want. It is waiting to reflect who you've decided to become. And once your intention is clear, your becoming is inevitable. Chapter 16. The Collapse of Time. How Presence Bends Reality Toward You. There is a stillness so profound that within it the laws of time begin to dissolve, not with violence, not with resistance, but with grace, like a snowflake melting in the palm of a warm hand. In this sacred stillness, the now expands. It breathes. And suddenly, what once seemed far away, the dream, the desire, the destined vision, begins to lean closer. Time, once thought to be a straight line, bends like light through a prism, and reality begins to move at the speed of presence. You have heard this before in whispers. The future is not ahead of you. It is here, curled inside this moment, waiting for your awareness to unwrap it. The mind has been conditioned to believe that everything must unfold in steps, that success takes years, that healing must be gradual, that change must come slowly. But what if that's a lie inherited from generations who forgot their own divine authority? What if time, as you know it, is elastic, obedient to the force of consciousness? You see, time does not bend for those who chase it. It bends for those who become still enough to witness it from the inside out. In presence, you cease chasing and start magnetizing. And all things, people, events, abundance, begin to flow not toward your future, but toward your current embodiment. Let me tell you the story of Jonah, a man once plagued by the burden of not yet. He lived his life in constant deferral. When the job comes, then I'll feel secure. When I find love, then I'll open my heart. When I heal, then I'll begin to live. But the then never came. Until one day, exhausted by the chase, he stopped. Not out of enlightenment, but out of pure surrender. He sat beneath a tree in his small backyard and did something he had never done. He chose to feel now what he thought only the future could deliver. He breathed as if he were already whole. He smiled as if he had already arrived. He opened his heart without needing a reason. And that evening, something shifted not outside him, but within. Time collapsed. What would have taken years unfolded in days. A letter arrived. A phone call followed. An encounter turned into a partnership. The external caught up to the internal. Not because Jonah forced it, but because he aligned with the present, where all power lives. This is the paradox of manifestation. The more you become it now, the faster it materializes. The more you wait for it, the more it waits for you. When you believe something is far away, you stretch time around it. You create distance with every thought that says, "It's coming," because that statement, though positive in tone, affirms a lack in substance. Coming means it's not here, and so it isn't. But when you say, "It is already mine," and feel it, breathe it, live it, you collapse the illusion of waiting. You dissolve the wall between now and then. And in that collapse, miracles arrive disguised as ordinary moments that feel too perfectly timed to be coincidence. There was once a violinist named Lucia whose dream was to play not in concert halls but in sacred spaces, temples, sanctuaries, cathedrals filled with reverent silence. Yet every door seemed closed. Bookings went unanswered. Her vision, though clear, always seemed a few years away. Until one rainy afternoon, standing alone in her apartment, she lit a candle, picked up her violin, and played not as a musician, but as if she were already standing beneath stained glass windows. She imagined the echo. She felt the audience not clapping but listening with hearts wide open. She played from a place outside time. And when the final note hung in the air, something cracked open in her chest, the realization that she had just lived her dream, fully in the now. Days later, she received an invitation to perform at a monastery in the hills of Umbria, without ever having applied. Presence, not planning, had accelerated her timeline. You see, presence is not passive. It is not about doing nothing. It is about doing from a state of already being. From that frequency, your actions carry the full voltage of alignment. You are no longer grasping. You are transmitting, and life rushes to meet the clarity of your signal. But presence is a skill, a discipline. It must be cultivated like a garden weeded of distractions, watered with breath, warmed by stillness. The mind will try to pull you back into memory or forward into projection. But you, the witness, must gently call yourself home again and again to the temple of now. And why is now so powerful? Because it is the only place creation happens. The past is frozen, the future is potential, but this moment is malleable, alive, undetermined. It is the clay in the potter's hands. Every time you anchor into it, not with force, but with gentle surrender, you hold the wheel of creation in your palms. The ancients knew this. They meditated not to escape the world, but to merge with the field of power that lives only in the present. In that field, thought becomes flesh, time bends, and the line between desire and embodiment disappears. So what does it mean to live in the now while holding a vision for the future? It means you feel the end result now. You walk as the version of yourself who already has it. You speak from the place of it being done. You wake up not hoping it will arrive, but knowing you are walking alongside it, moment by moment. You understand that time is not your obstacle, it is your servant. That your belief in delay is often the very energy delaying you, and that when you release the need to get there, you arrive not in geography, but in vibration. This is your sacred practice. Set aside 10 minutes each day to become still, not to visualize, not to plan, but to feel. To enter the energy of the fulfilled version of you. Sit with it, breathe with it. Dress it in sensory detail, and then walk through your day as if it's already so. Speak kindly to yourself. Make decisions from alignment. Watch how quickly reality responds. Watch how time becomes soft. Watch how life reshapes itself around your state of being. Remember, you are not subject to time. Time responds to your frequency. When you inhabit the present fully, without lack, without delay, you bend reality toward you. And the dream that once seemed far away suddenly looks you in the eyes and says, "I've been here all along, waiting for you to see me as already yours." Chapter 17. The Language of the Quantum. Why the universe only responds to energy. The universe is not listening to your words. It is not reading your vision boards. It is not persuaded by your affirmations unless they carry the weight of frequency. It hears in a language far older than sound. The quantum field, that infinite field of potentiality from which all things emerge, is deaf to your vocabulary but hypersensitive to your energy. It does not speak in syntax or sentence, it speaks in resonance. And what you radiate, it reflects. What you embody, it echoes. What you emit in feeling, it constructs in form. This is the great secret that ancient mystics knew, and modern science is just beginning to touch with trembling fingertips. Reality is not made of matter. It is made of energy shaped by consciousness. And consciousness is not what you think it is, what you feel while thinking. The intensity of emotion behind your thoughts is what instructs the field. It is not the clarity of your sentences, but the purity of your state. You are constantly broadcasting even in silence. Your vibration never ceases. It is the frequency of your being that is painting your world in real time. Consider Mira, a woman who spent years trying to manifest a peaceful relationship. She journaled endlessly, recited affirmations every morning, even set reminders to feel gratitude. Yet her relationships remained chaotic. Why? Because beneath her rituals lived a vibration of unworthiness, a quiet hum of fear that love would betray her. And so it did not because the universe is cruel, but because it is exact. The field delivered not her desire, but her dominant energy. And that is the law. It is not what you want that creates. It is who you are while wanting. But here is the liberation buried within that truth. The field is always listening. And if you shift your frequency, you shift your reality. Not gradually, instantly. Reality may take time to catch up, but the signal has already changed. The blueprint has been updated the moment you feel different. When you stop asking, "How do I get what I want?" and start asking, "What energy do I need to become?" You step into the realm of deliberate creation. You stop trying to control the outer and begin shaping the inner, which is the only place creation begins. Let me tell you the story of Bartholomew, a retired pilot who felt hollow in his golden years. His house was full, his schedule empty, and his soul restless. He tried to reignite life by planning activities, joining clubs, seeking new hobbies, but nothing changed the frequency he carried within: stagnation. Then one day, he stopped seeking distraction and sat in stillness. He imagined what it would feel like to be alive again. Not what he would do, but how it would feel. Excitement in his bones, freshness in his spirit, wonder in his chest. He held that feeling for 5 minutes, then 10, then 20. Within a week, he was invited to co-pilot a humanitarian mission. Within a month, he felt younger than he had in decades, not because he forced change, but because he changed his frequency, and the universe answered. You see, energy is primary. Form is secondary. The field does not distinguish between a memory, a fantasy, or an external event. It simply mirrors your emotional state. If you feel joy while thinking of a memory, it responds to the vibration of joy. If you feel fear while imagining your dream failing, it responds to fear. This is why so many affirmations don't work, because they are spoken with a heart full of contradiction. Saying, "I am wealthy," while vibrating lack, is like speaking one language and emitting another. The field will always respond to your vibration, not your script. So what does this mean for you? It means that your only real task in manifestation is to become the frequency of what you desire. To tune your energy, like a sacred instrument, until it matches the song of your dream. You don't become wealthy by chasing money, you become wealthy by vibrating abundance. You don't find love by hunting it, you become love, and it appears as a mirror. You don't bend time by rushing, you become timeless, and the right moment arrives like a divine exhale. There was once a painter named Julian who had never sold a canvas. Years passed, masterpieces filled his attic, but no one came. Until one night, overwhelmed by failure, he stopped trying to sell anything. He simply sat with his work and felt what it meant to him: the beauty, the labor, the sacredness. His frequency changed from desperation to reverence. And within days, without marketing, a curator stumbled upon his work and asked to display it. Within a year, he was internationally known. What changed? The field. And what changed the field? His energy. You are not here to manipulate reality. You are here to magnetize it. And magnetism is born in frequency. It is sculpted not by force, but by resonance. This is why your most important practice is not what you do, but who you are while doing. You could post every day, call every client, work 16-hour shifts, but if your core frequency is scarcity, the results will reflect scarcity. And yet, you could take one action from a place of deep worth, and the ripple it sends into the field will return multiplied. The field does not reward effort. It responds to state. Your frequency is your prayer, not the words you speak, but the vibration you live in. You cannot fake it. The field reads vibration like heat. You either are the frequency of your dream or you are not. But the beauty is, you can shift in an instant. One breath, one emotional decision, one quiet alignment. That's all it takes to send a new signal, and the universe begins rearranging on your behalf, not because it is sentimental, but because it is precise. So here is your sacred work. Feel first. Every morning, before the world touches you, tune your frequency, close your eyes, and become the version of you who already has it, not in concept, in vibration. Sit in that energy. Let it move through your body. Let your cells drink it in like sunlight. That is your real job. Everything else is logistics. And remember, the field does not judge. It does not delay. It does not forget. It simply echoes. It mirrors. It answers not your voice, but your vibration. So speak the language it understands. Speak in energy. Speak in frequency. And watch how the formless takes form. Watch how time bends. Watch how the dream finds you, not through striving, but through state. Chapter 18. The Observer Effect. How Belief Creates the Outcome. In the ancient halls of the mystery schools, long before quantum mechanics found its footing in modern physics, it was known among initiates that the act of observing alters the thing observed. This was not metaphor, but the living law of creation. That which you place your attention upon changes simply because you are looking. The mystics called it the eye of God within, the inner flame that lights reality into being. The scientists later called it the observer effect. But regardless of name, the truth remains you are not just watching reality unfold. You are causing it to behave by the way you believe it should behave. Your beliefs are not idle thoughts floating through a passive mind. They are commands, sacred blueprints issued to the fabric of space and time. They sculpt the invisible into the tangible. When you hold a belief, especially one charged with certainty, you collapse infinite possibilities into one observed outcome. It is not the event that holds power. It is the perception of it. Two people can stand before the same moment and live two entirely different realities, not because reality is different, but because their beliefs are. You do not see the world as it is. You see it as you are. There was a young man named Elias who suffered greatly from a mysterious illness. No doctor could name it, no medicine could tame it. For years he wandered from clinic to clinic, each diagnosis more uncertain than the last. But then he met a healer who gave him no pill, no prescription, only a mirror. "Look into this," she said, "and tell me what you believe is true about your body." Elias looked and wept. For what he saw wasn't his body, it was his fear, projected into flesh. He believed he was fragile. He believed he was cursed. He believed healing was beyond him, and so it was. But the healer gently replaced his reflection with a new belief. You are not broken. You are a conductor of divine intelligence. Slowly, steadily, Elias began to shift not in symptom, but in state. As his beliefs changed, so did his biology, not by chance, but by law. You see, your body obeys your beliefs. Your environment conforms to your inner expectations. Your relationships echo your assumptions. The world is not reflecting back what you deserve. It is reflecting what you believe you deserve. And the more emotion you attach to those beliefs, the faster reality bends to match them. Beliefs are not held in the mind alone. They are etched into the heart, charged with emotional energy, and broadcast through every cell of your being. This is the observer effect in motion. Whatever you believe with conviction becomes your lived experience, not because you tried harder, but because you became the version of yourself who expected it. In a small village nestled between mountains, an elderly potter named Juno told stories of how her clay would behave differently based on what she believed she was shaping. "When I see a bowl," she'd say, "the clay softens. When I doubt, it resists. But when I know not wish, not hope, but know it yields like water." Her apprentices thought it was superstition until they tried it for themselves. And sure enough, their energy shaped the outcome. Not because the clay had ears, but because their belief carried intention. Just like the clay of reality, it molds under the influence of your inner certainty. This is why transformation is never about willpower alone. You can work yourself to exhaustion, repeating affirmations, visualizing, acting as if, but if your underlying belief contradicts your desire, the observer effect will default to what you actually expect. The universe will always mirror the deeper signal, not the surface words. You can say, "I'm abundant" all day long, but if you believe wealth is hard to attain, or that you're unworthy of it, the quantum field will reflect the belief, not the sentence. But here is where your freedom begins. You can train belief. Belief is not a fixed structure, it is a frequency, and like all frequencies, it can be tuned. You are not imprisoned by the beliefs you inherited. You are not trapped by the beliefs of your past self. You can observe differently now. You can expect a new outcome. And the moment your belief changes, the energy around you begins to respond. Subtle shifts at first, a coincidence here, an unexpected message there, but these are not accidents. These are echoes of a new observer entering the field. Let me tell you the story of Mireille, a young woman who failed every job interview she ever attended. She dressed the part, rehearsed her answers, polished her resume, but she walked in with the belief that she was never good enough. And so, the universe responded in kind. Her posture, her tone, her hesitation, they all broadcast the silent command, "Reject me." Until one day, a mentor gave her no new technique, only a simple prompt. Walk in as the version of you who knows they're already hired. Mireille did. She stepped into the next interview not with confidence but with certainty, and as if by magic the room shifted, her words landed, her energy radiated. She got the job not because she changed who she was, but because she changed who she believed she was. You too are walking into every moment with a set of beliefs. You are observing the world into shape. You are not merely reacting to life, you are instructing it. If you believe the world is against you, you'll meet resistance. If you believe things never work out, they won't. If you believe people are untrustworthy, they will prove you right. Not because that's what's real, but because that's what you're observing. And your observation is a creative act. So what must you do? Become a conscious observer. Identify the beliefs that no longer serve your vision and replace them not with fantasy, but with upgraded truths. Don't ask yourself, what do I want to believe? Ask instead, what belief would the version of me who already has it be living from? Then adopt that belief like a sacred robe. Wear it. Feel it. Speak from it. Act through it. Until the universe, obedient to its own laws, begins to reflect it back in full. The observer effect is not a trick. It is not a metaphor. It is your reminder that belief is destiny, and belief is yours to sculpt. Your entire life is a mirror of your strongest assumptions. So choose them wisely. Observe on purpose, and reality will obey, as it always has, not to your effort but to your expectation. Chapter 19. The Timeline Split. Choosing your parallel reality through identity. At every moment of your life, you are standing at the intersection of infinite timelines, a great cosmic fork where countless realities branch outward from a single root, who you believe yourself to be. These are not imaginary paths in some distant dimension. They are real, tangible versions of your life, waiting for the smallest shift in your identity to become active. The idea that time moves forward in one direction is a comforting illusion, but not a truthful one. Time bends, it weaves, it splits. And the version of reality you move into is not determined by what you want, but by who you become. Your identity is not just your name, your job, or the sum of your past experiences. It is a vibrational field, a resonance, a frequency that aligns with specific events, people, opportunities, and outcomes. When you embody the identity of someone who expects magic, you enter the timeline where magic happens. When you live as the one who always struggles, the universe has no choice but to mirror that back. It is not punishment. It is not chance. It is selection by frequency. It is self-selection by state. This is the secret the mystics whispered through veils of metaphor and symbol, that you do not manifest what you wish for. You manifest what is consistent with your identity. You do not attract wealth by visualizing money. You attract wealth by becoming the version of yourself who knows they are already abundant. You don't draw in love by chanting mantras. You draw in love by becoming the version of you who radiates it as a state of being, not a need to be filled. When your identity shifts, your reality follows like a shadow chasing light. In the heart of an ancient temple carved into the cliffs of Petra, there is a forgotten legend told only in fragments. A traveler once came seeking answers from the Oracle of Possibility. When asked what he most desired, the man replied, "To know which future is mine." The oracle, cloaked in golden silence, led him to a chamber filled with mirrors, each one reflecting a different version of himself. One was poor and broken, another rich and radiant. One sat alone, another held hands with a lover. "Which one is mine?" the traveler asked. The oracle smiled and whispered, "Whichever one you decide to walk into." And with that he vanished. This is the law of the timeline split. You choose the mirror you step into by who you decide to become. You are not stuck. You are simply aligned with a particular version of reality that matches your current identity. But the beauty of this law is that identity is not fixed. It is fluid. It is yours to sculpt. You can choose a new role. You can claim a new name, not in letters but in vibration. I am the one who always gets what I want. I am the version of me who walks in certainty. I am the one who bends time by embodying divine alignment. When you declare your identity not with desperation but with full embodiment, you shift timelines. People you've never met will call you. Opportunities you never imagined will find you. But they are not new. They are native to the identity you just stepped into. You didn't summon them. You remembered them by becoming their match. Consider the story of Theo, a man who lived in a cycle of failure. Every business he touched collapsed. Every relationship withered. He believed he was cursed. And so, he was. Until one night, shattered by despair, he asked a different question, not, "Why is this happening to me?" but, "Who must I become for my success to be inevitable?" That question split his timeline in two. He realized that every version of him existed simultaneously: the failure, the winner, the genius, the fool. The only difference was the one he decided to embody. From that day forward, Theo acted, walked, spoke, dressed, and made decisions as the version of him who had already succeeded. Not to trick the universe, but because he became the version of himself that matched his dream, and reality, ever loyal to identity, conformed accordingly. You must understand this. Timeline shifts are not created through massive outer effort. They are created through micro-alignments in thought, feeling, posture, decision, and presence. Every time you say, "I can't," you reinforce the timeline where you stay stuck. Every time you say, "I already am," you magnetize the path where your dream is already true. It's not about faking it. It's about choosing it. Identity is not a costume you put on. It is a home you return to. Your future self is not a fantasy. It is your clearest self, already waiting, already calling, already formed. In a quiet village in Norway, there lived a woman named Elka, who baked bread in a worn-down cottage. All her life, she lived as the forgotten one, the unseen, the invisible. But in her dreams, she was royalty. She would awaken each morning hearing the phrase, "You are the queen who forgot." One day, she chose to remember. She woke before dawn, lit a single candle, and said aloud, "I reclaim my throne." From that moment, she carried herself differently. She spoke with elegance. She gave with dignity. And though her home did not change at first, the people around her did. They began to treat her with reverence. They sought her counsel. And soon, her small cottage became a pilgrimage site for those seeking wisdom. Elka never left her village, but she entered a new timeline by choosing a new identity. The queen returned not in palace, but in presence. You too can walk this path. You too can step into the timeline where your highest reality already lives, but it requires the boldness to choose, the courage to let go of who you've been in favor of who you truly are. You must abandon the familiar pain of the old self and step into the unfamiliar power of the new one. It will feel strange at first, like wearing shoes a size too big, but soon your soul will grow to fit them. The identity you choose today becomes the timeline you walk tomorrow. That is not just a poetic idea, it is the architecture of creation itself. So, the question is not, will this work for me? The question is, am I willing to become the version of me for whom it already has? There are no locked doors in this universe. Only doors you've forgotten how to open. The key is identity. The hinge is belief. The handle is repetition. And once you walk through, the world rearranges itself in response. Practice this. Each morning upon waking, ask, which version of me will I step into today? Feel it, embody it, dress like them, decide like them, speak like them. Let your inner world declare, this is who I am now. And soon, the outer world will rise to greet your new frequency. Because that is how timelines shift. Not through effort, but through embodiment. Chapter 20. Becoming the Law Beyond Laws. There is a moment on every seeker's journey, quiet, unassuming, yet deeply transformative, when the student ceases searching for external power and begins to embody the very force they once chased. That moment is not marked by fireworks or applause. It arrives in silence, in stillness, in the subtle recognition, I am the law I have been trying to master. And so begins the sacred shift from being ruled by invisible forces to becoming the invisible force itself. This chapter is not just a teaching, it is an awakening. Because the final step on the path is not learning another principle or reciting another affirmation, but becoming the principle itself. To become the law beyond laws is to move through the world as the source, not the subject, of creation. The ancient mystics knew this secret. They did not ask the universe to obey them. They became indistinguishable from the universe. Their will was not separate from divine will, it was divine will made personal. This is the meaning behind sacred phrases like, I and the Father are one, and thou art that. These are not poetic verses, they are encrypted codes designed to shatter the illusion of separation. The law does not respond to you like a vending machine responds to a coin. It flows through you. It arises from you. It is you. You are not meant to simply work with the laws of reality. You are meant to become the architect of reality itself. To become the law is to operate from a state of total causality. You are no longer reacting to life, interpreting signs, waiting for synchronicities, or trying to figure out what the universe is saying. You are writing the script. You are speaking the word that becomes flesh. Your assumption is not a hopeful wish, it is command. Your vision is not a request, it is the blueprint of reality. And you hold it not with strain, but with certainty. Not because you have forced it into existence, but because you now recognize, what I accept as real must become real, for I am the source of law. Consider the story of Karun, a young boy born into the slums of the old city. Surrounded by poverty, chaos, and despair, he did not wish for better. He expected it. Not from arrogance, but from knowing. From childhood, he walked with the air of a king. He would touch rusted walls and declare them gold. He would draw maps of cities he'd never visited and call them home. Elders called him delusional. But one day, a stranger visited the town, a benefactor, a builder, a man whose curiosity was sparked by Karun's presence. Within a year, Karun was taken to the capital. 10 years later, he returned, not as the boy from the slums, but as the architect who rebuilt them. What happened was not a miracle. It was the outpicturing of an identity so powerful, reality had no choice but to conform. Karun did not follow the law, he became the law. His expectation was the cause, his belief was the foundation. His vision was the decree. Becoming the law beyond laws is not about learning more metaphysics. It is about unlearning the final illusion, the illusion that the power is outside of you, that there is some force you must persuade, that you are subject to something greater. The truth is bolder, deeper, and far more uncomfortable. You are the source. You are not one of many waves in the ocean. You are the ocean, temporarily expressing itself as a wave. You are not a visitor to this cosmic game. You are the dreamer, dreaming it all into being. But to live as this truth requires a radical shift. It demands that you take total responsibility for every experience, not as punishment, but as power. Everything in your life is a result of what you've accepted, what you've felt real, what you've declared as true. This is not guilt. This is sovereignty. You can only change what you claim. And when you stop seeing yourself as a player and begin seeing yourself as the playwright, everything changes. You no longer ask, "Why is this happening to me?" Instead, you ask, "What must I believe for this to be true?" Then you shift the belief, and the story rewrites itself in real time. In a monastery on the edge of a mountain ridge, there lived a monk named Elias who never left his quarters. Yet somehow he was known across the lands. Generals would visit him before battles, artists before they painted, mothers before childbirth. When asked what power he possessed, Elias would simply smile and say, "I do not use the laws. I remember that I am the law." One student, in disbelief, asked him to prove it. Elias said nothing. Instead, he gazed at a dried-up olive branch. A minute passed, then another, and then buds formed, green, alive, vibrant. The student fell to his knees. "How?" he asked. Elias responded, "When you are one with the law, even silence becomes a command." That story may feel mythical, but it is no more miraculous than the way your body heals, or your heart beats, or your breath flows. You already are the law in operation. The question is, will you become conscious of it? Will you stop living as a beggar of your own kingdom and return to the throne you never truly left? To become the law is to move beyond techniques. It is to realize that your being is the method, your presence is the tool. When you walk as truth, speak as truth, rest in truth, the world bends to that vibration. Time stretches, events rearrange, and people look at you with wonder, asking how you did it. But you will know you didn't do it. You are it. So what does it mean to embody this in daily life? It means that your words are no longer random. You speak with precision, knowing that every sentence is a spell, every declaration is a decree. "I am" becomes your most sacred phrase, used not casually, but consciously. "I am wealthy." "I am radiant." "I am the fulfilled one." These are not hopes. They are instructions to the quantum field, which must obey the source. It means that you do not consult the world for evidence. You declare the evidence. You do not wait for confirmation. You are the confirmation. You walk into rooms already knowing the outcome, not because you're predicting the future, but because you've already determined it by embodying the version of you who lives it. Time bends to your certainty. It must. It means that you make decisions from identity, not circumstance. You don't ask, "Can I afford it?" You ask, "Would my highest self choose this?" You don't say, "I'll be confident when things change." You say, "I am confident now, and things must change in response." Because when you become the law, reality is the student. It is not your master. You are no longer reacting to life. You are authoring it. Practice this now. Sit still. Place your hand on your chest. Speak aloud. "I am the law made flesh." Say it again and again. Let the words imprint your nervous system. Let them override the old programming. Let them sink so deeply into your field that everything unlike it begins to dissolve. Then ask, if this is true, how would I think, speak, walk, decide, love, invest, act, create? Begin now, not tomorrow. Now. There is no process to becoming what you already are. There is only the choice to remember. This is the final door, the last unveiling, the moment where you stop asking how and begin declaring now. All the laws you've studied, attraction, assumption, vibration, cause and effect, they were not separate principles. They were mirrors pointing back to the same truth. You are the creator behind them all. To become the law beyond laws is to return to your origin point, the silent stillness from which all things arise, and from that place to speak again, not to describe life, but to define it. You are not under the law, you are the law. You are not waiting for alignment, you are the alignment. You are not seeking power, you are the source. You are the law beyond laws. Conclusion: the return to origin. And now, beloved reader, as you stand at the end of this sacred text, you are not the same. Something within you has shifted quietly, perhaps, but irreversibly. You did not merely read words. You remembered something. You touched the edge of your own forgotten divinity. And that was the point of this book, wasn't it? Not to teach you what you did not know, but to help you recall what you have always been. The law beyond laws was never outside of you. It was never locked in ancient tomes or waiting in the stars. It lived in your breath. It shimmered behind your eyes. It pulsed in your heartbeat. And now, at last, you see. You were never here to master the universe. You were here to become it. You were never meant to seek power. You were born as power itself. And this journey through chapters, through teachings, through stories and practices, it has all led you to a singular revelation. You are the source, the one who thinks, the one who feels, the one who shapes. You are not the observer of reality. You are its projector. The world around you, that was never the cause. It was always the mirror. Every outcome you called coincidence, every lucky break, every moment of delay or divine timing, it was always responding to you, waiting on you, echoing you. You now know this: time is not fixed. It bends to the certainty of your vision. Matter is not rigid. It responds to the weight of your assumption. Reality is not separate. It is entangled with the pulse of your desire, your belief, your will. And thought? Thought is not weak. It is not fleeting. It is the blueprint of worlds. It is the script from which stars are cast and galaxies are born. Every time you hold a vision long enough, love it deeply enough, live it courageously enough, the universe cannot help but bring it to life. You've learned the difference between wishing and knowing, between hoping and embodying, between waiting for change and becoming the change itself. You now understand that life does not reward the loudest voices or the longest prayers or the most action. It rewards inner congruence, the quiet resonance of being, of holding a truth so deeply within that the external world melts to match it. And this is the great secret that sages, mystics, and miracle workers have passed down in riddles for centuries. You do not chase reality, you summon it. Let others debate the law of attraction. Let others argue about vibration and frequency. Let others try to map the quantum field with formulas and charts. You will be the evidence. You will become the one who walks silently into a room and shifts the atmosphere. The one who holds a vision so clearly that others cannot help but believe it's real. The one whose life becomes a living demonstration of unseen forces, bowed into obedience by sheer inner alignment. This is the level beyond scripting, beyond visualizing, beyond praying. This is embodiment. This is the return to the throne. So where do you go from here? You begin again, but not as who you were. You begin as the one who knows, as the one who no longer waits, as the one who does not ask, "Is this possible?" but rather, "Am I ready to live it now?" You begin as the law beyond laws, the eternal principle made flesh, the divine encoded into skin and sinew, the quiet storm that walks this earth, not begging the world to change, but commanding it by being changed. Your practice now is not to become something new. It is to stop pretending you are anything less than the God force you have always been. Your job is no longer to attract. It is to become attractive to the very reality that already exists in another layer, waiting for your signal. You need not seek miracles. You are the miracle. You need not bend time. Time will bend for you. You are no longer part of the story. You are the author, and the pen is in your hand. From this moment forward, every thought is sacred. Every word you speak is law. Every feeling is an instruction to the field of all things. Treat your inner world with reverence, and your outer world will fall to its knees in awe. Reality is not random. It is responsive, and you are its master now. So close your eyes, not in escape, but in command. See what is yours, feel it, know it, walk toward it as though it is already done, because it is. You have read the chapters, practiced the principles, felt the shift. Now it is time to live the truth, to rise and walk as the law incarnate, to think as though your thoughts create because they do, to love as though love rewrites matter because it does, to move as though the universe is bending time around your steps because it will. And if ever you forget, return to this book. Not for more answers, but to remember who you were when you believed again. Let it remind you of the ancient truth that courses through your blood, the sacred flame that flickers within, the voice that says, "I create, I command, I am." Because you are not here to follow rules, you are here to be the rule. You are not here to obey laws. You are here to embody the law that makes all others obey. You are the law beyond laws, and the world has been waiting for you to remember. If this audiobook sparked something deep within you, and if this message awakened something in your soul, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. You never know who might need to remember their own power too. Until next time, keep walking, keep becoming. The universe already said yes.